Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Austin, Texas for the first road course race of the season for the 100% Cup Series at the world-famous Circuit of the Americas. We'll see who can tame the twists and turns of this famous racetrack here on 3Wide TV. Gonna be myself, Corey Silva, giving you the calls with Peter Short, the 3Wide TV commentator here, helping us out because Andre is a little bit busy on the evening. So welcome, Peter, to GOATA. A very difficult racetrack, especially these big, heavy stock cars, so should be quite the challenge on the evening.
Yeah, absolutely. This is my hometown racetrack. There's no racetrack that I have been to more in my life than Circuit of the Americas. I know this place. It is a very technical racetrack. It was built for Formula One cars. These are obviously not Formula One cars here tonight. Really heavy. NASCAR is going to be working their way around this 20-turn circuit. I'm very excited to see what we have in store here tonight.
Yeah, of course, our 100%, so we will be emulating as much as realistically possible what you will see tomorrow, of course, if you're watching this live. So a couple of the biggest differences, the incident limit, Peter, and I'll probably call you Andre at least once or twice out of habitual, so just don't mind me there. The incident limit has been the biggest point of contention in this series this year, of course, with these next-gen cars being, as we call it, tank mode, where they can just take a beating and still chug along just fine. We have seen many people have incident issues. Tonight, the limit is going to be 21 over the course of this 68-lap race. And it's not 21 and get a penalty. It's 21 and you'll get out of the race. So that's going to be a very big point of contention to follow in tonight's efforts. As the point standings on the screen, see 5 people already locked into our playoff picture. John Delaney, last season's champion, Benefield, Giglio, Hall, and White. And then you can see there right down towards the cut line around 14th spot, Hoytspa, and then Jedi, Jason Taylor, 15th, Paget, Hoffman. So a lot of points on offer here today. But of course, being a road course, it's going to bring some people to the front that we probably aren't used to seeing. And a lot of times you have those wild card victories.
Yeah, of course, road course is always a little bit different flavor than the ovals. You got your road course ringers, the people who really enjoy these races. They'll circle them at the beginning of the calendar. I, myself, am one of those when I've raced in oval leagues. I love going to the road courses, especially technical ones like Circuit of the Americas. But then you have those drivers where, yeah, you don't really know what you're going to get. Looking over at the Manufacturer Championship there briefly, it's been a Chevrolet show with 4 wins so far this season, only 1 to Ford's name, 20 markers back, and Toyota waiting to get their first win this season. So got to keep an eye on that here tonight. Will we see another Chevrolet in victory lane, or maybe we'll see Toyota break through to get their first win this season? But it is currently in practice here, the number 6 of Delaney atop the board with a 2-minute 10.5 and sitting pretty up there at the top of the leaderboard with about a 0.3 of a second gap to Lucas Hoytsma. So pretty big gap up there. Hopefully we'll see a race with a lot of strategies when it comes to this race course. Corey, you mentioned the 21 incident point limit. I'll tell you what, you could probably get 21 incident points at this racetrack in a single lap. There's 20 turns. There's plenty of opportunities to get those penalty points by going off the racetrack. If your race car goes over half of the car across the white line, that's an incident point. You get 21 of those, and it's night done. So definitely something these drivers are going to have to keep in the back of their heads every single turn of every single lap.
I'll tell you, I was in a league race a few years ago where somebody compiled 70 incidents in a 40-lap race. There was no precedent there, so of course a rule was set in the following season to mitigate that from happening, but these guys will definitely have to keep themselves contained within the confines of the circuit here. And of course, we will be having rolling stages, which NASCAR is doing tonight. So we'll have those on lap 15 and 30 rolling stages. And then the big stickler in the room, there is a randomly triggered caution. We don't know when, because it's random. We don't know what the trigger is, and we also don't know how many there are. So you may find the yellow flag disperse itself a few times on the evening, and depending on when it does, strategy on road courses is always something to keep your eye on, because it can vary, it can bite you, or it can benefit you. But you can see on your display that timer going down to 0. Well, actually, you can't see it, but I can. And that means we are going to go trackside in just a matter of moments and get you a starting lineup. So welcome to 3Y TV. Make sure you like, subscribe if you have not done so. And, well, Peter, we're going to turn left and right on your favorite track, and these guys getting ready to go on the starting lineup.
Yeah, it is going to have to be a short starting lineup as well, because of the fact that, well, guess what? We don't have a big lap or big pace lap here. So it is at the top, I believe that is the number 38 machine that will be starting on the pole of Brandon Pierce. And then alongside him, Anderson on the front row, Texas driver in home state, Alex Murray. Oh, okay. Getting word
Carl
from
broke
producer.
it. All right.
Yeah.
He fixed it.
Oh.
Unbroke.
Carlos, buddy, you have to get these things right. No, I'm just kidding. John Delaney, how about that on the pole in the number 6 machine? Psych. Matt Long will be starting alongside him in the number 97. Robert Miller will be starting in 3rd. Andrew Dyson, the 04, in the number 4 starting spot. Alex Murray rolling off in the number 22 machine. That's the number I always run, starting in 5th. Patrick Gitter there in the number 21 in 6th. Neil Pearson in 7th. Clayton Hoffman in the number 92 from 8th. Robert Anderson will be starting in 9th, and Lucas Hoytsma rounding out our top 10.
We'll whip through. Sometimes we get an extra pace lap, sometimes we don't. We'll see what the admin wants to do with us today. Matt DeCiani in 11th with Adam Benefiel in 12th. We're not getting an extra pace lap, so we'll hustle through this. Alex Russell in 13th. Schofield 14, Stone, Heitman 15, 16, Pierce, O'Brien 17, 18, 19, 20, Hutchison, and Marty.
In 21st position, we've got Jeremy Miller, then I believe that's Kevin Steele in the number 7, starting in 22nd, Nolan Hodgson. 23rd, Chris James in the 24th spot. 25th is going to be Carl Dodson, and then Kyle Ammon in 26, Baker in 27th, Dustin Hall 28th, and then I believe that is
Andy Drumhiller, yep.
Drumhiller? Yeah, Drumhiller. I know someone with Drummiller is their name, so just got to make sure that's not that person. And then Grass will be rounding out our top 30.
And then just a shotgun on the caboose here today. We have Hickenbottom, Tracy, Van de Sant, Taylor, and Mobley, 35, 36 cars, depending on your scoring, that have run today's race. So usually we get an extra pace lap, but 3.2 miles. I don't think these guys wanted to run an extra pace lap around this place. So we are soon going to enter the pit road. The iRacing Porsche pace car going to lead them down with last season's champion John Delaney, who was also very strong on the road courses last season, and of course qualifies up front. So it could be a long race, particularly without those cautions. But we're going to come through the final turn here, up the 110-foot elevation change into turn number 1, which you'll see him go 5 and 6 wide in the real world. We'll probably see it here too. Pace car is in, entering the restart zone, waiting for the Barney to let that green flag wave. Still waiting, and there goes. Let's race in Texas.
Good start by the whole field. Everyone's rolling clean. You got to watch for wheel spin on the start of these races. Everyone trying to lunge towards turn number 1. The 6 of Delaney doing a good job getting to that apex. The field sorting themselves out nice and cleanly through the apex. Everyone's made it. A little bit of a stack up towards the back of the field. I think I saw the number 7 get a little bit slow back there, but everyone's rolling as they work their way into the S's for the first time tonight.
So a lot of issues here today in the Craftsman trucks and the Xfinity Series going side by side through the S's, so everybody funnels themselves safely into single file formation, intelligently so. But up front, you can see right here on the shot, Delaney is being hounded by, who is that, Robert Miller, who has passed Matt Long for the second spot. So 15 hounding the 6. But again, I almost called you Andre again, Peter. We have no guaranteed cautions and no time cautions tonight, so you're not racing towards a set target. You have to put even more emphasis on saving those rear tires, so you don't want to go too hard too early on this very slick surface.
Yeah, that you don't, and we will see, I'm sure, a couple of these drivers struggle with that tire wear as they start to wear on. We do have a good battle right now between the number 22 and the number 97 down the long
battle
back
for the
stretch.
lead as well.
Looks like Miller ran way wide in the number 15 machine, well off the racetrack. That's going to be an incident point for him. Got to keep your eye on that, but he's going to lose a couple positions now. Battling, contact with the number 21 of Gitter here through the stadium section as they work their way now into turn number 15.
On screen. The replay on screen here, I think Miller basically bought postage to send a letter to Australia here with as hard as he drove it on in there. Of course, locked him up, luckily to keep the car in one piece, but definitely a 1X, and 20 remaining in 67 laps. That math doesn't work out quite favorably, but he can recoup from the 6th position and try to get back in rhythm.
Yeah, slotting in nice and neatly, just locked up those brakes. Very easy to do your Karen. A lot of speed down into turn number 12, which is that turn right at the end of the straightaway. And I've seen a car even lose its brake at that corner. That was a very unpleasant sight in a GT4 car, losing its brake there. You do not want to lose that.
Cam Stone with the pedal cam here on the evening.
Oh, like that.
That'll be very interesting to watch, especially later in the run, because GOATA, I will tell you, GOATA basically has the grip of a freshly polished piece of glass. This place, you can't even think about pressing the throttle after about 5 laps, and that thing wants to go around on you. So you really have to treat that gas like there's a feather and an egg under it and just absolutely breathe on it. So we'll see how he does fare there. Stone, of course, running in the 15th position here in tonight's race in his retro Sterling Marlin Escalade, which is what he runs on that team. Trying to see what else we got going on here on circuit. Let's see, looks like it at about the 5th position. Clayton Hoffman under fire from Robert Miller. Again, he is the postman with that send it move, trying to recoup that spot. That's a position for 5th. We're watching and then just going through the field. Everybody kind of stringing out and getting in rhythm here for a long race at COTA.
Yeah, there is a battle in the back half of the top 10 right now as the number 62 machine of Pearson is getting underneath Gitter. Gitter's had 7th spot at the beginning of this lap. He's lost a pair of spots now as they're working their way now through the stadium section once again, working lap number 2. Like we said, it's a little bit of a long one. As always, when you go to these road courses, I always say, Corey, when you have a long race on a road course, it truly is an endurance race. You have to come into it with an endurance mindset where you got to protect your car for the end, especially with the fact that we have cautions. We got a replay here. This is a little bit further back in the pack with Baker and Ammon here. Let's see what happened here coming into, I think, turn number 12. Indeed, and number 51 just ran wide and going to lose a pair of spots and rejoin the racetrack nice and clean. Just looking around the racetrack here. Here's a battle around the 20th position. This is Ralph Hutchinson leading a little bit of a group. Van de Sande in the mix here. Miller also in the mix in that pink and black machine. Had a peek to the inside of Van de Sande. Not going to make anything of it. They go back to single file, working their way out of turn number 1. Down the hill into turn number 2, this long right-hander, and then into the S's. As you can see here, they have those, they call them pillows, Corey, those big yellow curves right in the middle of these corners. And as you kind of whip back and forth through them, you have to watch those pillows because they can send you around in a hurry. I'll tell you what, these Cup cars do a better job of hitting them than a open wheel car, but that's something these drivers have to watch out for all night long as well, because those things can be brutal if you hit them wrong.
Yeah. First off, I was muted and didn't even realize it. But secondly, to validate that, they did actually run full-blown turtles, as it's been coined at the Charlotte Roval, when they first did this track in year 1. And so many drivers were having issues because they were destroying the cars. They did take them out. But yeah, we do have here on the service, we do have those little tiny, as you call, pillows, those little bumps, whatever you want to call it, to evade you from jumping the S's. Cam Stone on screen right now trying to make a pass there on Jim Schofield, our Rookie of the Year standings leader. So trying to make that pass. But to your prior point, Peter, about this being an endurance race, for NASCAR road course standards, this is a actual endurance race. If you actually time out a Watkins Glen race, it will start to finish be less than 2 hours. But I'm looking at my back-end telemetry here, my software, and we're estimated, if this goes 100% green, to be still 2 hours and 20 minutes. So on a very physical track with no guaranteed caution, umpteen amount of shifts per lap, constant fighting the wheel, this is definitely a long physical race, particularly those with direct drive steering wheels.
Yeah, battle up near the top 5. Lucas Hoytsma side by side with Clayton Hoffman as they head up towards turn number 1. Looks like the 07 might have had a little bit of a puff of smoke there. Hits the apex nice and cleanly though, and he will start to drive away. Makes that pass on Hoffman, who now is going to fall into the clutches of the number 62 of Pearson. So we'll keep our eyes on that battle. It's been a good recovery for the number 15 of Miller, who has now reached the back bumper of Alex Murray in the number 22 up in front. So we'll keep our eyes on the number 15. You're not missing a whole lot much up at the front of the field, although Andrew Dyson is keeping tabs on our race leader, just about a second on back, as you see the 3-wide TV multicam for the first time here tonight. Great look of these drivers all over this racetrack, because I'll tell you what, being here, I've been here for Formula One, I've been here for basically everything but NASCAR in the one V8 supercar race they had back in the day. This is a great racetrack as a spectator, because you can catch racing in about 5 to 6 turns at multiple locations on the racetrack, and it really gives you a great view if you want to see a road course race. Not a lot of road courses give you the opportunity to see multiple corners from a spectator position, and the Circuit of the Americas definitely does. And of course, we get to see the race from multiple positions here on the 3-wide TV multicam, as I think that's the number 4 machine just running off the racetrack. This is a good battle in the midfield, duking it out through the turn number 12 through turn number 15 complex that you see right here. Is man, that number 57 and the 27 getting tight here through turn 15.
Yep, that was Matt DeCiani who went off there. And the 4 going around there, I think that's Jim Schofield, one of our rookie points leaders there. And he's going to do a little loop-de-loop there through the grass. So that's going to be at least a 1X, maybe a 2X if the system doesn't really like him too much. But he's going to carry on there and go all the way back to the confines of about the 26th position here. We got a replay queuing up here. Kudos to Carlos Costa pushing the buttons back there. Now let's see what happened to Schofield. That's the 76 just behind him. It's one of those classic situations he had to check up, but the 76, I think that was Derek Heitman just behind him. He couldn't react in time, and a little loop-de-loop there for the 47 car.
Yeah, and just another few incident points closer to that disqualification. So got to keep that in mind. I know we keep saying that, but Corey, that's one of the things as a commentator we don't really get to see. We don't really know how many incident points people are sitting on, and so all of a sudden drivers will be racing around the racetrack and we'll see something happen, and all of a sudden they'll disappear, and we go, what just happened to them, you know? And they'll be disqualified. So that's something we as commentators have to keep in mind, and you at home have to keep in mind as well as these laps continue to click away. But want to thank you all for tuning in to 3 Wide TV here tonight for the GOATA Grand Prix. I love that name, Corey. The GOATA Grand Prix. I mean, you can't get much better than that. That is the greatest of all time.
If there is one thing that this league is known for, it is very interesting race names. Last week's race at the Atlanta Motor Speedway was the Gentleman's 400 with a slightly suggestive logo. So I like to have fun with it. Of course, we have our fun weeks like the Soda Wars and the Paint Scheme theme night. So a lot of fun here on the Saturday nights here on 100% Cup Series. So glad you are along for the ride with us. We got some quiet chat here today. Usually we're up and lively, so you have folks go grab yourself a Monster Energy or something, wake up, and let's enjoy this race together. Put your thoughts in our chat here. But one thing I want to, as we have our multicam on screen, I do want to kind of point out the lap times, Peter, up front right now. Last time by, for example, Dyson 1/100th of a second slower, basically a wash on lap times amongst him and Delaney. And at the stripe that time by, 2 3/100ths faster for Dyson. So we're actually seeing that 0.4 may start to have the pace here as we get to lap number 6, which you could say is starting to be the threshold of turning into a long run here. You just saw Delaney overshoot turn 1 just by a little bit. That'll allow Dyson to close in. But as Dyson closes in, Peter, on this very technical track here, he is going to start to endure the aero wake, the dirty air. So through a section like this, dirty air is going to hurt him heavily, but he may be able to make it up in these heavy braking zones.
Yeah, one of the nice things, though, about this racetrack, and you actually kind of saw this while watching this battle, is that you can run a slightly different line if you kind of want to maximize your speed either into the corner or out of the corner. GOATA gives you the opportunity to kind of maximize the speed at different portions of the corner, especially through those high-speed S's, where it kind of works out to be a wash, and you can kind of work it where you can get a little bit of extra clean air on your nose, unlike an oval where you're following very closely right behind them pretty much lap after lap after lap. The only corner that I'll have to say you have to get right is turn number 11. That's the hairpin at the far end of the racetrack, where you got to maximize your exit speed out of turn number 11 so you can just carry that speed all the way down the long backstretch that we have. Got a good battle. Speaking of the backstretch right here, this is Van de Sant and Heitman, in the 96 and 76. They're going to trade spots as the number 96 makes his way through turn number 12. Meanwhile, back behind him, Ralph Hutchinson ran just a little bit wide. Sean O'Brien also in the picture with the number 24 machine at his rear bumper, but pretty much all single file for now.
Now, I'm just looking at the paint scheme, Peter, on that 96. He's driving the next-gen 56 car, so clear that car is 400 pounds lighter with carbon brakes on it. It has working headlights, so that car is completely illegal. So he's probably going to have to go to the R&D center and get some points penalties after this one.
Yeah, also with those extra, fins on the front and all that stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
And he's trying to make it seem like, we're not noticing because he's only running in 15th, but he'll turn the Mario Kart turbo pads on probably around that 50 as we do our Fox censorship here on Van de Sant's very proprietary information on the dash as he dives off up the hill into corner number 1, trying to catch the 27 of Alex Russell. Again, that blind downhill, kind of akin to Sonoma. Then you funnel on in here into the very arduous S's that we see people go 4 or 5 wide, funneling down into maybe 1 2 wide situation. Left, right, avoid those pillows, try to see where you're going, try to gain time, be easy on the throttle, or blind corners, switchbacks, a very, very difficult part of the speedway, or racetrack, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, for sure. It really is a difficult section pretty much all the way until you get to this rundown to turn number 11. You're kind of tiptoeing these cars around, especially with all the horsepower that they have been given this season with the difference in package that we're seeing on these road courses. So I'll tell you what, it is not an easy thing to get the power down lap after lap after lap, because like you said, Corey, this racetrack does get extremely slippery, especially in those low gears and in some of the slower speed sections like we're coming into right now, as Van de Sant hard on the brakes into turn number 12. Good job hitting that apex, lets it run out just a little bit as you can see this little train now forming back behind Benefiel in the number 83, sitting in the 12th position. So that is really the battle for 12 all the way through the 17th spot right now. So good job by everyone keeping things relatively clean. And I know, Corey, that is the name of the game here in the 100% Cup Series. And, you know, I've every once in a while joined the chat myself, and everyone's keeping it nice and clean. And that is great to see. You got to keep it clean if you're going to be around for 100% of these races week after week after week. And that is what we're seeing here on a race course where it is very difficult to do so.
Yeah, of course, you go to a racetrack like a Watkins Glen, which from a technical standpoint is rather simple. Sonoma is a very difficult track, but you know, it's one that people know because it's been in every single NASCAR sim or video game for the last 20 some odd years, as a side-by-side battle there with Van de Sant and Russell coming through the S's. They're going to want to fizzle that out into single file. Van de Sant will suffice, or will he? I think he'll make that intelligent decision to do so, as he will fall in just behind. But yeah, Sonoma on every calendar. The Roval is relatively new, but I think a lot of people had the hype behind it and have learned it. GOATA still in year 3, but it's still not a track that a lot of people gravitate to, actually, even in terms of a full field. Usually we're right at 40. We're at 35 today, so a couple people have shied away from the road course. So this people still learning here at GOATA, still getting comfortable with this layout, and that will lead to a little bit more separation and spreading out on the lap times.
Yeah, we are starting to see some separation happen as here we go on board with the number 57. Cameron Stone got that great launch out of turn number 11 down the backstretch. He's going to blast on by, so move him up into the 12th position with that move. Here he is into turn number 12. And tell you what, Cameron Stone started in 16th, has now moved up into 12th. So good job for Cameron Stone to start to pick up a couple of positions.
Yeah, I can see his foot cam there. I thought he was going to try to do akin to what Ricky Rudd used to do. Peter, you may remember it from the old ESPN days when Tide Ride with Ricky Rudd. He used to have his foot cam, and he was known for his heel-toe braking, but you don't have to do that in these new next-gen cars. You can kind of just jam it into gear and kind of get it up and going. So it's still interesting to see that shot nonetheless here as he comes through the latter end of the circuit. Cam Stone here, lap number 9. Something I guess we should start to consider, as actually we do have the battle for the lead starting to shape up. But something we should consider, Peter, is I don't know what the fuel window is here, if I'm being 100% honest. And now that we don't have a caution to automatically, get everyone back up in the same bunch, strategy on a road course, do you want to go on the early end of the window? Do you want to go on the late end of the window? Do you want to try to split it, cut a pit stop out? So many different strategies now that we don't have those guaranteed yellows anymore.
Yeah, and of course, with the fact that we don't have guaranteed yellows, we know we're going to have a yellow, at least a yellow. We, as a commentary team, we're in the dark, just like all these drivers. So when that little icon in the top left of your screen turns to yellow, it's going to be a surprise to everyone. But that very much could play into some people's, advantage. And look at that. Oh, it's a joke. Mr. Producer got me. He's already got me. We're only 10 laps in.
April Fool's isn't until next week, Carlos. Which it is actually on Saturday, so rest in peace, us in the booth next week with whatever he has in store. But that is what you will see if and when. And I'm going to say if, because I did cover a league last year that said that they had the caution randomizer thingy on, and it didn't work. So everybody, including the drivers, was waiting on a yellow that never happened. So the exact verbiage from admin is there's randomly triggered yellows. So what is the trigger? That is, if there's no trigger, what is the trigger? How strict is the trigger? These are all questions to which answers have yet to be filled in. So you will find out along with us here on 3 Wide TV. But I'm going to throw a stab in the dark here that the window will probably be about 25 laps, maybe. Sounds about good. So we'll see how that stands. But I do want to focus up front because Dyson within 2 or 3 car lengths here coming up the hill into turn 1.
Yeah, he actually dropped back, and he's going to have a big lunge down to the bottom side of turn number 1. And they're going to be side by side down the hill into turn number 2. The 6th of Delaney has the preferred line, but at least for now, there's almost contact. They're all over one another as they work their way into turn number 3, but at least for now, Delaney stays ahead. But I was just about to say, Corey, that the 04 had dropped back a few laps ago to about a 1.2 to 1.5 seconds, and I thought, well, maybe the tires have gone away, but I think he was just cooling the tires. He was just saying, you know what, let me lay back and I'm going to have an attack. This is the attack, and the 04 looked strong here. In fact, I thought he was going to pounce there up through turn number 9, but he thought better of it. This is a great battle up at the front of the field. We might see our first lead changes. Oh, the 6 runs wide in turn number 11.
Yep, to the inside of the track right now is Dyson down the long back straightaway here at COTA. They're going to funnel down
and caution
into the left. There is the caution. What is the trigger? We don't know. I'm looking up and down the data to see if anybody has an issue. It doesn't look like it, so that's a caution. And Delaney still being scored the leader, so he won the drag race, at least to the timing line. And we'll see how this shakes up for the strategy, because there is one kind of elephant in the room that we haven't disclosed here tonight, and that has to do with physics. And, we love these conversations, but the physics model for tires and tire wear doesn't really exist on road courses, because they were still turning some of their best lap times towards the end of that run. So tire wear doesn't really exist. So you may see some strategy calls staying out if they had a certain fuel window in mind. So this is going to be very interesting, but it's going to be a long process here to compile to the pace car, wherever it happens to be on circuit right now.
Yeah, you're right. Last time by, Andrew Dyson was the fastest driver on track, and he was only about 0.6 of a second slower. In fact, I think, about 0.6 of a second slower than his best lap. So not showing a lot of drop-off in the tire department here tonight, but the pace car will join the fray for the first time here tonight under our first caution. And man, if I'm Andrew Dyson, Corey, I'm kicking myself right now. That was so close to making that pass for the lead when the caution flag randomly was triggered. I'm really glad earlier when I was talking about a caution flag coming out that it didn't come out, because then it would look like it wasn't random. But it definitely was random in that battle for the lead. But we'll get everyone lined up behind the pace car.
So I do have a little bit of information here via the InSim admin chat. Total incident limit reached. So basically, there's a software program called iRacing Control, not a sponsor, where they can set parameters as to which will cause a caution. They can have it be completely random, or they can set a certain number of incidents. So once the whole entire field collectively hits, we'll throw out a number 50 incidents. That 50th incident will trigger a yellow. Now, I don't know what the number is for the league. There's no way to know, Carlos saying it would have been on lap 1. But whatever that incident number is collectively amongst the whole field has been hit. And theoretically, if that happens to be hit again, another caution will come out. But we will see. Well, first off, we got to deal with this one, but that's at least the technicalities of it.
Yeah, now we have to go back and figure out who it was that triggered the incident limit. I'm not going to do that research, though, while we're under our first caution flag of the night. Oh, looks like Mr. Producer has it.
Yeah,
So let's see, Corey, who it was.
Well, the lovely session events ticker here on the overlays that gives us a little bit of insight. That's Damaris Hickenbottom, league admin here. He went wide. That may have been it. A lot of times it is the green. I do have also knowledge that on lap number 9 that Dalton Mobley went wide as well. So that could have been it as well. So GOATA here does. You may have the knowledge because this is your track, Peter, but typically if you go outside of the rumble strip and any part of your car gets onto the green, maybe half of your car onto the green, I believe that's generically the incident threshold here. Of course, there are some variances in certain corners.
Yeah, there's some slight variation, but I think actually through the long sweeping right-hander that makes up turn 16, 17, and 18, I think you get half a car from the inside of the long curb. It's a little bit wonky, so you do get a little bit of credit in a couple of corners, but like you said, usually it's the white line plus a half a car or so, so still really not a lot of wiggle room in that. And if you're locked up in a battle with one of the other cars around you and you're just trying to stay off of them from making contact, sometimes that can lead to an incident point for just running a little bit wider or cutting the corner a little bit more. So it's just all things that you're balancing here. And of course, really that's racing. It's just a big balancing game of the risk versus reward. And when it comes to the additional risks in sim racing, incident points are one of those. Let's see how many takers we have on pit road as the iRacing pace car. And looks like Delaney is going to come down and probably lead a good majority of the field. Now, here's an interesting thing. The iRacing pace car is relatively slow around turn number 20. We will see whether or not that draws any penalties with any of our front drivers. I think iRacing's got better about that particular penalty over the years, but at one point you couldn't pass that pace car, else you get a penalty. Yeah. So hopefully everyone's good.
I think as long as you are registered in pit lane, you're fine. But if you I know this was a big deal at Homestead back in the day, where if you were on the access road and you passed the pace car on the access road, you were at a detriment. So I think he should be okay, but of course we'll find out the hard way, and I have voice chat on, so I will find out the easy way if such thing exists. But we did have 9 drivers, being Gitter, Hoffman, Anderson, Diciani, Van de Sant, Heitman, Russell, Hutchison, and James all remain on circuit. So that will put those guys into dirty air with tires that aren't necessarily wearing out that drastically. But it also puts you into problems corner because, it was relatively tame on lap 1 heading into turn number 1. But as more laps go by, the tameness into turn number 1 on restarts is going to minimize. So we'll see guys 2, 3 wide trying to gain everything they had. And when you do that, what does that put you into a position for? To go wide and get an incident. So very precarious once you get back there in the hornet's nest.
Yeah, if you're one of those drivers like the number 6 machine who has pretty much led every lap up until now, you have to be patient. You have the pace to work your way back up through the field, but it is going to take a little bit of time for sure to do so. So you just got to be patient, hit your marks, be opportune when a situation arises where you can kind of make the pass. But sometimes that takes longer than you would like to get up to the front. And of course, you're racing with everyone as well. You got some other fast drivers around you that you're going to have to keep back, hopefully, in your rear view mirror. But sometimes that isn't always possible. Looks like the racing pace car lights continue to twinkle. Sometimes you kind of get that that late decision by the iRacing pace car to turn off its lights here on these road courses. They don't always turn off the lights right at the start-finish line. So, but it looks like we, at least for now, won't be going back green this time by, and all the field kind of all scattered out, not doubling up just yet as they go down this long backstretch. And I have to say, if you ever get an opportunity to go to Formula One, now they have raised the prices about 3 times this year from what they were last year. They're absolutely ridiculous this year. Hopefully they get the memo next year and they drop the prices a little bit more. But on this long backstretch, they actually turn, after the race is over, they turn this entire backstretch into a concert area. And those big, long, grassy hills that you kind of see there in the background of the picture, that's where you sit if you don't pay extra money. If you pay extra money, you actually get to sit on the track about, an hour and a half, 2 hours after the Grand Prix finishes, and you get to see some performer of some sort. I saw Elton John one year. I saw Taylor Swift one year. A couple of others I've seen that I honestly can't remember. One of them was Justin Timberlake. But it's kind of crazy how they do all that so fast. The race ends, and on the far end of the racetrack, they're converting everything to a big stage and all that, and it's pretty crazy, and a really, really cool thing that they do here at Circuit of the Americas on that long backstretch. They actually utilize the land a little bit better than I've seen other places do in the past. So pretty cool as the field continues to pace around here. So Corey, you said 50 incident points. What do you think the incident point limit was?
I was muted again because I was drinking my drink and I drink loudly. But I did want to bring up, and I'll get back to that, what you were just talking about with F1 tickets, if you don't mind. I read today that at the Las Vegas Formula One race, they are going to announce about 30,000 more seats that are going to be less than $500, which sounds great, right? But they don't have views of the track. Why would you pay $500 for a ticket and you can't even see the event that the ticket is going for? That is the world that F1 is going for. So luckily GOATA, all the seats actually have the track in view. So full marks to GOATA on that.
Yeah, that is... I saw the same thing, and I was scratching my head as well. I thought maybe you get the ticket to enter the quote-unquote snake pit, if you will, for the race, and then maybe if you spent thousands of dollars on your hotel room, maybe you have a view looking over the track, and maybe just go back to your hotel room and watch the race. I mean, that'd be kind of cool, right? But I don't know. I agree with you, Corey. Absolutely nuts. I'm not going to the Las Vegas Grand Prix. That's for sure. I'm not even going to the Grand Prix in my hometown.
Yeah, I'm not taking a second mortgage out on the house here, but let's see, as we are now on 1 to go. Everybody's doubled up, stacked up, getting behind that pace card. You were asking me a question about incident points before I rudely cut you off to vent. What was that?
I was just going to say, what do you think the number was? We get to speculate up here in the booth. We got through about 9 laps or so before the first caution flag was thrown. You think it's 50 incident points? That would be just about 2.5 a person or so. Maybe just under 2 a person.
I'm going to say 25. That basically gives everybody a chance to go off one time. Between 25 and 40. I can't fine tune it, but I'm going to say between 25 and 40.
You are, I don't know, I think the number's higher than that. I was going to go with the good old 69 number, but, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I don't know.
We don't turn off the sensors until about 11 o'clock, so we do have to keep ourselves in check.
Yeah.
For at least
I was going to say, Dan Fields in the chat, and I know we've already answered this, but for everyone who's not watching the chat, Dan asked a great question. Well, what about incident points? Can't we track incident points? Unfortunately, the answer is no. We have software that tries to simulate it, based off of kind of the spatial location of the cars and what's all happening, but it is very much non-exact. So it makes it difficult for us up here, like I mentioned earlier, to know where people are at with the incident point limit, because we just really don't know. So that's something that we kind of have to keep in mind going forward. Maybe we'll see a caution every 9 laps. I don't know if they're... Maybe you know this, Corey, where maybe you can trigger a first number and a second number and a third number, or whether or not it's just a multiple of that number that continues to re-trigger that caution.
I was actually looking here on the website, and I was trying to download the program, but I think it's a paid software, and as much as I love my audience, I don't want to pay for something just to learn the system. So actually, Carlos, I'm going to try to download it here and fiddle with it in the background so we can have a little bit more knowledge. I'm going to download it and see if it locks me out. So while I do that, we're learning together. This is probably the 3rd race I've covered where this software has been implemented. It's very helpful for leagues. I know it does also help with stages so that admin can have a stage caution without having to take their hands off the wheel, and it has automated abilities with black flags. So it's a very good software. Again, not a sponsor. iRace Control. Talk to Carlos. Maybe you want to be a sponsor of the series of the channel. Yeah, unless maybe indeed. But we're coming towards I believe the latter end of the circuit here. I'm terrible with the numbers. I want to say it's turn 16 and 17. 20. All right, it's turn 20 according to Carlos. Yeah, it is. Last corner here. On to the pit straight. And Barney has the flag in hand. We're going to enter the restart zone, which I believe is not a thing here, but close enough to it. We're going to get ready for the restart. There it is. On the loud pedal is Pat Gitter. And let's head up the hill and see what they do.
Yeah, Pat Gitter getting it done as they head up towards turn number 1, but a big lunge by the number 5 of Robert Anderson as they work their way tight at the top of the hill. Everyone doing a good job. Oh no, the 6 machine. I think the 6 machine has gone around. Is that the 6 machine?
Yeah, Delaney just talked about it in the hornet's nest, and it bit him. Maybe we can get a replay queued up in a moment, but just looking at the top end, looking at the replay, he was on the top of 3 wide, and everyone funneling replay queuing up here on screen. But he's on the top of a 3 wide situation, and unlike real life where they just go as wide as they want to evade contact, we just don't have that ability here on the surface. Might be interesting to have a top-down view of that to kind of see if he came down or someone came up, but either way, tight confines in the turn number 1 here.
Great job by everyone to avoid the spun number 6 machine. Here we go with this replay up on the top side. He definitely coming down. I think he came down on that one. That's at least what I see in that. He might not have got the 3 wide call until very late. Now, in the S's, chaos broke out again as well. Ralph Hutchinson went for a spin. Now we got another spin in turn number 12. It is Derek Heitman who's turned around backwards. There he is, waiting for the whole field to work their way on by. And Corey, I've been in this position right now, and it is just absolute pain watching everyone go by you, and there's nothing you can do.
Because you can either be that guy and just say, you guys figure it out, I'm going, or you can just wait and be the good guy and drop down to dead last. And luckily, Heitman chose to do the latter of the options there and went down to dead last, 35th position. Now 30 seconds back, which in normal stage racing, fine. Let me suffer till lap 30 and I'll get back up there. Not a thing here tonight. As I believe, never mind. We just had Alex Russell losing some spots there. I thought he may be spinning out. Not is the case, but maybe he did spin out here. Carlos getting a replay queued up here. A lot of stuff to follow here, especially on these restarts. Let's see what happened to Russell.
Yeah, I think this is coming into turn number 20. Just locked him up.
So it looked as though he realized he was going to go wide, but instead of going wide, he really, really slowed up in the center of the corner to make sure that he could make the exit and stay on track. That may be way too over the top of what he thought in the moment, as here goes Jeremy Miller with a little loop-de-loop through, I believe it to be the S's, or all blends in here with all the white paint everywhere. Let's see what happened to him. Yep, through the S's. Oh, that pillow was not soft.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't want to rest my head on that pillow here tonight. We also saw, like I mentioned, I think Hutchinson going around, but some good battles happening through the field on this restart.
This is the last lap of the stage. Remember, rolling stage, but this is the last lap of it, which probably accounted for the pit strategy variance there. But Pat Gitter in the number 21, he needs to hang on to start-finish to get that pivotal stage point over Hoffman, who's currently about half a second behind. But we've seen many a mistake happen, so half a second in the four corners definitely is doable if Gitter has some issue as he comes through the latter end of the circuit. Very long, never-ending right-hander, it seems. A little bit of wiggling you can see going on there as he sets himself up for 19 and 20, and don't think Hoffman's going to be in a position, so we'll see if Gitter can confirm the stage. 92, he sent it, he went for it, but not able to conclude it. So 21 will be our stage victor, but we're going to keep racing.
Yeah, that is a new rule for NASCAR this year that the 100% Cup Series has also implemented. So we will stay green flag as, just looking a little bit further back in the pack, almost contact between the number 6 of Delaney, who is marching his way back up through the field side by side with Dustin Hall as they head down the front stretch. But you're looking right up at the point of the field here with Pat Gitter leading the way. But I'll tell you what, Corey, he's definitely getting some pressure from behind. The number 92 of Clayton Hoffman looked really strong under braking in turn number 20. I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see a battle for the race lead breakout here shortly.
Very much a possibility. Now, one thing I do want to follow up on here, we saw John Delaney, of course, spin out, but just for the record, our first driver who did pit on the fresh tires for whatever benefit they may have is Andrew Dyson. Remember, he was just about to pass John Delaney there prior to the caution, but he was not able to complete the pass. But he's up to fourth, closing in on Van de Sande in the illegal number 96 machine. So that is the first car on tires. John Delaney, for you fans of him, he has worked his way up to the 22nd position. 20 seconds off of your race lead as we do have the multicam up. I think that's Carl Dodson in the very brightly colored design. Dustin Hall as well on screen on the top half of your multicam image right there.
Meanwhile, on the bottom side, Andrew Dyson looking to the inside of Alexander Van de Sande, and oh wow, Van de Sande shut that door a little bit late. I thought he was going to be spinning around in turn number 16, but luckily, Dyson backed out of it, but Dyson definitely closing on in on Van de Sande, who is the biggest mover of the race so far. Started all the way back in 34th here, Corey. Very impressive to see that number 96 running in third, but hey, that number 96 is illegal. We did say that, running the Le Mans package that they're going to run this year in the Garage 56 entry as Andrew Dyson lunges to the inside, side-by-side battle for third. Looks like Dyson will take that spot right at the top of the hill, and Corey, you got to see some brake rotors glowing there as well in that 04.
Yeah, because at this point, it looks like a very large cloud has encompassed the entire facility here at Circuit of the Americas. Sun has gone beyond into the clouds there, as you can see the brake rotor cam on screen. So I don't think we got a track temp reading before the race started, but I can state now it is at 89 degrees Fahrenheit right now. So I'm assuming going down with a 73-degree air temp here, weather conditions here in Austin, Texas. So be interesting to maybe follow up on that when the sun, if it even does come back out here, still on that suspension cam with the multicam there of on the top of the screen. The Aussie, Neil Pearson, currently on our top half of the cam right here, trying to see where he is on 10th position here for the Aussie 62 machine. So good run for him. Taking a look at what else we have going on here. Dyson going for second here, end of the back straightaway, taking the dive on Hoffman. And he will take that pass with relative ease there. I think Hoffman just kind of let him go. So Dyson on those fresh tires, they must have some benefit here, announced to what I was told in pre-race. And he's going to go for that lead in the stadium section here.
And one thing to note, Corey, about that cloud cover, which seems to be waning just a little bit now, but it helped with the grip levels. That last time by Andrew Dyson was the fastest car on the racetrack and turned the fastest lap of the race so far, as he was flirting with a 2-minute 9-second lap time, a 2:10.185 for the 04 machine. So a very, very impressive last lap for our now second place driver. And we saw a caution flag come out when he was battling for the race lead last time. Let's see if another caution flag comes out this time. That would just be bad luck.
I just saw all 4 brake rotors that time blowing, not just the front one. So Dyson in attack mode. You can see there on Gitter as well. Gitter out actually just ran his best lap of the race too, but point be told that Gitter's best lap of the race is 1 second slower. More than that, 1.5 seconds slower than Dyson. So this should be quick work here, as there goes Mr. Sun, Mr. Golden Sun shining back on the racetrack. So I think I said the track temp was 83. Already back to 91, so take no time at all, and that grip will go away. As here we go, battle for the lead, switchback pass there. Dyson gets by Gitter with relative ease here, and I have a strong feeling he's going to drive off into the distance.
Yeah, you don't make many passes at that particular point of this racetrack, but when it comes off, it looks absolutely fantastic, as sure enough, Andrew Dyson gets the race lead. Let's get another look at this one, working their way up here through turn number 8. This left-hander right here, turn number 9, right up at the almost the highest point of the racetrack. Great
that was
job.
Like a basketball. That looked like an Allen Iverson crossover. I'm going this way. I'm going that way. Yeah, Carlos said he broke his ankles there. Kind of faked him out. I mean, taking advantage of the track layout there, and of course the fresh tires with that mobility. So definitely taking advantage of that. Up by 0.7 of a second, or even a second in very short period of time here, as we do have a battle on screen. Looks like that is trying to make out who that is actually.
Yeah, Alex Murray and the 15 of Miller side by side here through turn 16, 17, and 18. Now, if you're in Miller's position here, Corey, all of a sudden you were in the right spot. Now you're in the bad spot. You're on the kind of the outside of the next apex. He's going to have to give up that position. They're side by side, a couple of cars in front of them now, as the number 97 of Long is now looking to the inside of Diciani. Is that correct? Is that how you pronounce that number?
I guess weekly, and I haven't been told otherwise, but I guess you're right. So kudos.
Okay. Hey, I'll take it. That's something good then that I can do here on 3 Wide TV, as they're continuing to battle now off into turn number 2. A great battle here as they, let's see if the 97 can pull that same switchback maneuver. Now he's going to go look left, and he's going to think better of it. Backs behind the number 4 machine for the left and right S's. Switch back and forth. But some really, really good, clean racing throughout the field here, Corey. And that is what these fans at home want to see lap after lap here at the Circuit of Americas as we work our way through lap number 19. This was about the same period of the run where we saw a caution flag come out due to the first incident point limit. Not sure if you've done any further research in the background, Corey, but hopefully we don't see another caution flag, at least for a little bit of time. As still some great battles midfield.
I am looking here, so I have my software. It kind of gives me these little triggers of when stuff is happening. This may gives you stuff to look at. And I can say that in the last minute, Carlos, contact there. Someone going around there off the bumper of Kyle Ammon. That's Derek Heitman in the 76. So certainly that will add to that incident count here. Replay to be triggered on screen. And let's see what happened. 25. So I was watching the Xfinity race earlier, and Keselowski was trying to get benefit of the doubt. I thought he punted him. Let's see if he did. He punted him. It looked pretty close. I mean, I don't like being the one to judge, but I could say it's accidental, but it seemed pretty that was a thing, but that's what happened.
We just saw in around turn number 14-15 area, the number 6 of Delaney made a very impressive lunge to get past Jim Schofield in the number 47. But Delaney, remember, after that little spin, he has worked his way up to around 20th position. Here we go. Here's the replay of it. Watch this lunge that he makes down into turn number 15. Leaves it really late, makes that lunge, locks up the brakes just a little bit, and clears him before turn number 15 even. So that number 6, he's on a charge trying to make his way back up the field. He just ran wide in turn number 1, goes off the racetrack. He's going to get that position right back.
Because you know what happens when you lock up the tires? They get hot. When they get hot, they lose grip and they get mad. And in many cases, they never recover. So that will be something for Delaney to watch up on. As I do see some smoke there just in front of him. I don't know if there's any trigger to it or if it just someone locked it up and continued on. I think that is the case. But one thing I was trying to point out on my little telemetry screen here that gives me nuances of data, Damaris Hickenbottom popped up 4 times saying he may have crashed, he may have crashed, he may have crashed, all within the same lap. So if somebody is ticking up that incident limit, it may actually be our admin here who is on the caboose here in the 35th position.
Well, I noticed on the back end of his Ford Mustang, it says, "We're hauling the mail," of course, sponsored by the U.S. Postal Service. Well, hauling the incident points.
Yeah, he's selling a lot of stamps here because a lot of guys are sending it here. Waka waka.
Some good battles. I think we just saw a battle around the 10th position breaking out, back half of the top 10. As I think that's around where we saw that last gaggle of drivers. Here's Cameron Stone in the number 57, 62, right back behind him, Neil Pearson. But like I said, this is the battle for 9th, 10th positions right now. Alex Murray just a little bit further back, and Miller in the number 15, also in the mix. So
racking really up the incident count. That's Chris James off circuit with a little loop-de-loop there. So again, we are guessing, but every time there's an incident, we are closer and closer to another caution. The most generic way to say it here is the replay on screen. 82 Chris James through the stadium section. Hops the curb and just a little bit too much on the beans there, I think you guys used to say back in the day. Once he got in the air, just looped it around like he didn't care, and that relegates him back to somewhere far back on circuit. 21st place here, as we do have battle on screen. Delaney Hutchison, that is in at about the 17th position. Just behind that, Jim Schofield. He's had his fair share of issues today as well. I think everybody in this little display has had some issues. But let's go back to Andrew Dyson, who through all of that has pulled away to 4 seconds in and about the 3 or so laps that he has been the race leader. Absolutely just pulled the legs out. And
Alexander Van de Sant in the number 96. I was just about to kind of follow on, Corey, to say that Gitter had been hounded by Van de Sant. And too much beans coming out of turn number 11 right here. Look at this. There we go.
Clearly he forgot to enable the traction control that I know is present on that machine in real life.
There's so many buttons here on these stock cars. Corey. Maybe he just flipped the wrong one, tried to turn off a fan and accidentally turned off the traction control, but he's going to drop a couple of positions. But Robert Anderson in the number 5 is also going to lose a couple of positions in the Kellogg's machine. He's going to drop down to the 7th position, as Lucas Hoytsma now has worked his way, I think, up into the 4th spot. Yep. Then Long in 5th. Van de Sant back to 6th with his mishap. Anderson sliding back a couple spots to 7th. Then Diciani in 8th, and then a side-by-side battle right back behind them as the number 62 is looking to the inside right there at the back of your picture of Neil Pearson getting underneath Cameron Stone. So this really is a great battle just inside the top 10. A couple of cars still strung together as we have about now over 10 consecutive green flag laps, which is always good to see. Expected to see that here in this 100% series. And also just really speaks to the volumes of the competition level of this particular series. If you're looking to get into a league, check out the 100% Cup Series, because it ain't for the faint-hearted, but these are good race car drivers.
And you do have to work your way in. So I actually cover on Friday nights, I cover their Division 1 campaign, which is essentially the feeder series into this. But since we've been broadcasting it, it has actually become a even more competitive and astute series than it was before. So that runs on PTR TV, my channel. But that'll be Xfinity race distances. And then, of course, on Saturday nights, it is the full distance race. So we call it like the no-life tribe here. You got to have a lot of time in your hands to put in these endurance races. But if you do have the time, you're going to have some great racing and meet some great people. Of course, you have to do well on the Friday nights. Not just do well, you just have to be respectful and show that you know how to wheel a car around. As we do have a replay on screen of somebody having some sort of issue. That is Rod Drumhiller in the Coleman Camaro. He tried his hardest to stay on track. Now, that is very close. I don't know if that gave him an incident or not. It may have, but he tried his hardest to stay on circuit. Just may or may not have succeeded in the endeavor. But one thing we do need to point out, we are closing in on a pit window because we are on lap number 22 for basically everybody who did not pit on the caution. They are on their original fuel load, 22 laps, and I don't know the exact number, but I do know the stage is on lap 30, and I know that they must be pushing the end of the window. So we do have our fancy pit graphic stint thingy on screen right now. I don't know quite how to read it, but that's a lot of information. So if you can make it out, then it'll show you basically who pitted and what the fuel windows are and all that fun stuff. Carlos, what is it? Because I can't see it with the bit rate. Yep, so that's exactly what I thought it was. So basically it shows you who has been out for what lap. But do you pit before the stage? Of course, there's not going to be a caution for the stage. Do you pit before it and then try to cycle it through? I don't want to be a crew chief, and because I couldn't do all this. I could hardly, do strategy races without stages, let alone with them.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if they can make it to lap number 30, I would be very surprised making it that far on a single fuel run. So we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe they can. We did have a couple of caution laps in the mix.
Sonoma used to be like 35 lap fuel runs, but this track is also 1.5 miles longer than that. So my brain would tell me they can't, but I am frequently wrong, and I own that statement.
Yep, that's something you have to own with your commentator, especially here on 3 Wide TV. You get things wrong sometimes, but that's part of what keeps us guessing up here in the booth and makes it fun for everyone watching at home, because it comes as a surprise every once in a blue moon. Andrew Dyson out front, really can't see anyone back behind him, now up to almost 7-second race lead over Patrick Gitter in the 21, who has about 2.6 seconds to Clayton Hoffman behind him, who's running in third. Lucas Hoytsma, who really starts the train of drivers that are close behind him. Got the 97 of Long and Alexander Vandis on the heels of Hoytsma. So we'll have a good battle here for a top 5. Of course, as we move in closer to the stage, as there we go, Gitter on pit road. Corey, we didn't think they could make it, and this proves us right for once.
Yeah, so a little earlier than I would have thought, but it could all be in the realm of the strategy. So I would have to imagine it will draw more blood. Carlos saying that if a caution comes out, this would really work in his favor, because there are certain tracks on the schedule where you want to be in pit road when a caution comes out. And that typically is a road course or a really, really long lap oval, such as Indy, which rest in peace, or Pocono. So Hutchison in the number 8 car also coming to the attention of his crew. So pit stops underway here towards the end of stage 2 in our 68 lap affair here for the GOATA Grand Prix, if I remember the name of the race properly. So welcome everybody to 3 Wide. If you just tuning in, we have seen an interesting race. John Delaney was the pole sitter, but had some issues on a restart. Has his way back to the 13th spot. Of course, that is facilitated a little bit by some pit stops here, as we do have our multicam on screen. Battle to the bottom of the racetrack there. You can see the 4 Matt DeCiani getting passed by Alex Murray in the green machine, or vice versa. As Miller, another one of those drivers, trying to get his positions back because he had his issues earlier in the race. So everyone having their issues and everyone also fighting the incident count here, as we already had 1 incident caution, and we just await at any time for the second one, if at all.
Yeah, I'm just looking around the racetrack. I just saw something very interesting out of the number 6 of Delaney, where it seemed like, I don't know if the number 6 Chevy sputtered or something, but on the rundown into turn number 11, it seems like he let the 38 of Pierce right back on by him. Not sure what that was about. He'd passed them up into turn number 1, but not sure if there was any contact.
Slowdown or something?
That's probably what it was, but that would have meant the number 6 ran wide. I didn't see that, but you can get a slowdown penalty there, where iRacing tells you have to slow up and give up a little bit of time. So that had to be it. Clayton Hoffman, Alexander Van de Sant on the pit road, as well as the number 5 machine of Anderson, all coming to their pit crew. So very much inside this pit window for the drivers that did not stop under our only caution flag that we've had around lap number 10.
Still waiting on the Matt DeCiani. He is the only one that I can see on the back end data that has, well, a couple drivers, but he is the highest of them that is still on his original fuel load. So that is good for us to know, because it lets us know what the maximum fuel distance is. So at least 25 laps, but I'd have to imagine not much longer than that, currently running in 6th. So again, the difference here, do you want the stage points for stage 1? Do you want the stage points for stage 2? I don't think anybody has found out how to get both of them, just because of the nature of how the racing is. So again, we'll have 5 laps to go until that stage, and we'll continue racing here at Circuit of the Americas, as we do have our multicam back on screen. 5 of Robert Miller in the Kellogg's ride, about to be surpassed, it appears, by the Jedi Jason Taylor. Shot just changed there on me, but we have another battle on screen. Lucas Hoitzman at the bottom. Haven't talked about Hoitzman too often today. Matt Long just behind him on the bottom of your display.
Yeah, good battles around the racetrack still. Just curious to know what the strategy for these leaders are. We now know it's about 25 laps, Corey, so just thinking about the math, these drivers who, like Dyson, pitted around lap number 12, you add 25 to that, that gets them to 37. If you add 25 to 37, you get to 62. So we know that even Dyson has to make 2 more pit stops in this race. He has to make one sometime around 37 and then another one around 62. Interestingly enough, that is the same amount from this point forward that the drivers who just pitted, they pitted on lap number 25, they can pit again on lap number 50, and they're good to go to the end. So pitting on lap number 10, I don't really know if that changes the game a whole lot. We do know Dyson will have to take on less fuel at the end because he'll be able to go longer into the run, but
well,
I don't know.
Sometimes what happens...
Oh, caution!
Well, let's throw all that conversation away, because Matt DeCiani, he's in the pit, so he is in the perfect situation here. He actually stretched it 26 laps, as a matter of fact, and Carlos has a replay as to maybe this was what the incident was. Somebody just did not realize how slow the pit road speed would have had to be to make the corner there. That was Chris James.
Yeah, we'll see whether or not Chris James brought out the caution in doing so. I feel like that probably counts as a 1X, but maybe he was coming down pit road and he just decided to abort coming to pit road.
Gotta be careful about that word choice in this state, Carlos.
but
yeah,
that,
so that,
like you said, changes everything.
So the drivers that did just pit are going to be they're just going to be smiling ear to ear because they're essentially going to be on the same strategy as everybody else, and they're going to have the track position to boot. Of course, presuming that everybody else pits, because not every time is a driver going to go and pit just because there's a caution. If you're committed to a strategy and you know the numbers that you need to hit, and you know that caution is not going to do anything for you, a lot of times there's no point to pit, especially when the tires aren't really kind of setting the stone for your decision.
Yeah, I think we're going to see everyone on pit road because we know, at least if you haven't pitted yet, I think everyone's going to come down because from this point forward, you can make it on just one more stop. We know that. But interestingly, we got that stage on lap number 30. What do you think, Corey? Do you think we're going to go back green before lap number 30? It's going to be tight.
So I don't know. Typically in the caution era, if a caution comes out that is close enough to or encompasses the stage, then the caution itself would be the stage, points calculator. But in this situation, I don't know if that's the case. So if we are going to go green, at lap 30, we'll of course battle till the end of it. But if it does encompass, I don't know how that's going to work out. But we did have a rather long first caution, so my gut tells me that we'll probably go green 31. But we'll see what. Well, Barney's the flag man. I don't know if we have a name for the pace car driver, but we'll see what the pace car driver decides to do with us as everyone tries to get coagulated together here.
I think the pace car driver should forever be just Brett after Brett Bodine. But Lucas Hoytsma did ask the question to the race officials. I didn't hear the response that he got asking about the stage. So there definitely was the question asked and a response. So we might get our answer if Lucas Hoytsma decides to come down pit road here or decides to stay out when they make it to pit road, because pit road will be open this time as we work our second caution of the night. But again, strategy calls on these road courses. Corey, I absolutely love the fact that we get strategy calls. But let's also kind of think about this a little bit. We had caution number 1 come out around lap number 10. Caution number 2 made it to lap number 25. So it still puts us in the possibility of having at least one more caution before the end of this race. So of course, maybe these drivers will clean things up and we won't hit that other total incident limit amount, whatever that next number is. But interestingly, that would give us about a 20 or so lap shootout to the end of the race if we were to see that next caution. So we'll have to keep that in mind. It may or may not happen. We really don't know. Only time will tell. But we could set ourselves up for a little bit of a Texas shootout here in the GOATA Grand Prix.
And it'll be very interesting to see, A, if that happens, but B, what the strategy entails, because we still are shuffling our lineup back to where it quote-unquote should be, with John Delaney up front, who again never recovered from that first caution where he pitted when everybody else didn't, fell back to 10th, got spun out, all the way back to dead last, essentially, worked his way back up to the top 10. Now he's in 8th, but he will be in one of those predicaments where does he pit, does he wait to the stage? Because if you pit right now, you're sacrificing stage points. So that boils down to how important are these points for you? Andrew Dyson, does he want the playoff point for the stage or does he not? Because if he pits right now, he's not going to get it. So, I mean, this is where your points position, your playoff life, your playoff, comfort level, that all comes into mind. And we're playing games. Oh, we got a little bit of a shake-up there. Dyson comes in. Hoytsma stays out.
Yeah, Hoytsma did elect to stay out. A couple of drivers, not a whole lot of drivers, but a few electing to stay out behind that iRacing pace car. But the drivers on pit road are currently led by the 04 of Dyson, who's in his pit box nice and neatly. Important to hit your box as smooth as you can, because these pit boxes here at Circuit of the Americas are not very big. You can see everyone on pit road nice and tight. But there you see the drivers who stayed out under this caution. Hoytsma leading, Miller in second, Pierce third, Van de Sant in fourth, and then Clayton Hoffman. But out of those drivers here, Corey, a couple of them had already made their pit stop. So Van de Sant only has like one lap or so on his tires. But Lucas Hoytsma in the 07, he has about 16 or so laps on his tires. So up inside the top 5, some differences for sure in tire age, but we haven't seen a whole lot of drop-off in these tires here tonight, somewhat surprisingly so.
Yeah, so I'm kind of the guy who is in charge of knowing the technicalities of iRacing, because I have been a day one member and I just spend far too much of my time on the forums. So basically, staff knows that the tire model on road courses is not accurate. They are just waiting for more data to give finite information to what the next gen tire should be and the fall off should be before they program it. So they have desired to give essentially no tire wear until they come to that conclusion. That's kind of what I have read on the forums. I don't necessarily agree with the logic, but I don't have to agree with it. I just have to go with it. So because of that, we have a very, very simplified tire wear model. I think it is still sensitive to heat. So you have the drivers that lock up the brakes, slide the tires a lot. They will still lose grip in that capacity. But in terms of actual wear, that is where we kind of have a lackluster situation here. And of course, you may be noticing a visual change on screen. We did lose our primary feed. We are working on getting that back, but kudos to Carlos for having a 2 iRacing setup system here, because when one goes down, we still have images for you. So the dedication of our producer. So claps there.
Yeah, we were talking about that before, because I broadcast here on 3 Wide TV on Friday nights. And we were all very envious of Carlos's multicam, and it definitely is one of the things that sets 3 Wide TV apart. At least when Carlos is broadcasting, he does a great job running all the shots and all the cameras every week here on the channel. It looks like the field doubling up. We're gonna get set to go back green. You see they brought out the Porsche safety car here this week, going up from the Kia-Audi, as I call it, a mixture of Kia, Audi, and Hyundai all smashed together. That iRacing decided to not have a branded pace car that they use on the ovals, but we went upscale this week with the Porsche, at least somewhat upscale. Looks like we're getting word that the feed is starting to come back. There we go. Great to see. And in time for the green flag coming out here shortly.
So I believe that because we are on lap number 29, that we are not at the stage. The caution did not encompass the stage. So barring what we know, we are still racing to an arbitrary lap 30. Of course, it'll be a rolling stage, so we will keep going. So who can sustain the lead? Robert Miller, we know he has the speed to do so. He's going to be on that outside lane. Haven't really seen what Lucas Hoytsma in the 07 has. Van de Sant, as he's got to be careful in that illegal number 96 Garage 56 machine here. But let's get ready for some racing here as we are on. The pace car is pulling off, heading into turn number 20 here at Circuit of the Americas. And we saw what happened to John Delaney on these restarts. Anybody can have it happen to them, but they will try to avoid it. On the loud pedal is Hoytsma, and let's get ourselves funneling off into the chaotic uphill turn number 1.
Oh man, the number 5 of Anderson got an absolute terrible restart. He might have been in the wrong gear, but that stacked up that entire outside groove. Is almost contact there coming out of turn number 1 as Hoytsma puts down the loud pedal. Miller with a charge, and of course with points on the line as there's chaos happening up.
Tanner Marty in the 29 machine, he was skating off in the grass there, but no damage, no harm done. Here goes Hoffman around in the S's.
Yeah, and DeCiani also getting involved in that. Neil Pearson going off the racetrack.
Jeremy Miller, what is going on? Is there some oil down in the S's right now? Everybody having problems.
Yeah,
Marty,
we'll go back
Miller, and DeCiani all having problems there from turn number 1 through the end of the S's here. We got Miller's replay on screen. I already see some smoke. Miller just completely missed the S's and just decided to go for the safe loop there to keep the car in one piece and evade everybody else.
Yeah, and this one happened up around DeCiani. You see a puff of smoke there, and then there's the contact. Oh, man. The 04 barely squeaking through there. That was close for Dyson, and now some gaps developing because of the contact that we saw out there. There's that nudge sending the 92 around.
That was very akin to what we saw many a time here in the Xfinity race earlier today, or even the Craftsman truck race, issues of funneling through into the S's. So all of that chaotics later, and we do have Lucas Hoytsma retaining the lead. Robert Miller in the 15. He is in second, about a second or so back. Van de Sant in third. Brandon Pierce, where did he come from? He is in fourth. Heitman, another one who's been in a bunch of issues here tonight, he is in fifth as we take what is now going to be the white flag for the stage here as we come through the last corner on the racetrack.
Yeah, Hoytsma has a decent gap back to Robert Miller, but Miller has been lunging and trying to get the power down early to close in on that 07 machine. Could be close whether or not Miller can get that job done, but nonetheless, battle up towards turn number 1. The 04 of Dyson just out of picture. We had the screen on Alex Russell there in the number 27, the JDRgraphics.com Chevrolet, but Dyson was able to make the pass move up into 7th past the number 5 machine. But the chaos kind of all started, Corey, on that restart with the number 5. I'm not sure if he just was in the wrong gear or what, but that entire right lane just did not get rolling very well on that restart, and that might have just bottled up the field a little bit more than usual and led to the chaos in the S's.
I can tell you everything that happened there. I can tell you the exact reasoning why Miller had a problem. It's the gods of Terry Labonte being mad that he's driving a Terry Labonte car on a Toyota. That's exactly why.
In the state of Texas, Terry's home state. So, yeah, I think that's an accurate statement, to be honest with you. As Lucas Hoytsma, there's the number 15, Robert Miller, right back behind him. It's difficult to make a pass from really turn 12 all the way to the start-finish line, but we'll see if Robert Miller can do it to get the stage point away from Lucas Hoytsma. Hoytsma asked that question, Corey, under caution about whether or not the that stage counted or that caution counted as a stage, rather. He wanted to know that answer because he wanted that bonus point for sure, as it looks like he's got it here. Just 2 more turns, working his way through turn 19 right now.
Miller close, but just not close enough here as we have the onboard roof shot here. We did have it at turn number 20. You got about 2-3 car lengths back, just not going to be enough. So the rolling stage playoff point will go to Lucas Hoytsma in the 07 Mustang. So kudos to him on that. But in pure new rule fashion, we're going to keep on racing. And also worth noting, this is lap number 19 for Hoytsma, Miller, and Derek Heitman. For Brandon Pierce. So 3 of our top 4 are going to need pit stops in the next 6 laps, akin to the current strategy. So again, have to see how all this shakes out. But at least for the time being, they got the points via the stage. So the short-term goal accomplished.
Yeah, Pat Gitter, the winner of the first stage here tonight in the number 21 machine. Oh, he just hit the curb very hard through the S's. I had my camera on him. He went curb hopping for sure. I thought he was going to lose control of that number 21 machine, but he was luckily able to keep it underneath him somehow, some way. He's battling with the number 41 of Jason Taylor in front of him. In fact, just lost that position to Taylor, and Taylor's driving off into the sunset as he now comes under fire from Clayton Hoffman here down into turn number 11, but we're looking a little bit further back behind him. This is a good group of cars. Hickenbottom there staying well out of the way as Kyle Ammon's going to make the pass, and Tanner Marty as well in the number 29 machine also going to make that move for position on the back half of the top 20.
Peter, I think you are one of the only people that I've talked to or broadcast with that has the exact same verbal inflection of words that I do. It makes me kind of think that I'm talking the way that you end sentences. I don't know if you've noticed that, but we do the exact same thing, interestingly enough, here as we end sentences in the same manner. But it's a compliment because we're very similar. We do have a replay on screen here. Kyle Ammon.
Nope.
The mail car. Sale on stamps. Sent it on in, and let's just add a +1 to the unknown incident count here. Perhaps even a +2 for that matter. But he keeps the car in one piece, which is the important goal that everyone's trying to achieve here. Back to live footage. Hickenbottom in the 29th position. And that is Brandon Pierce on screen being surpassed by passing Heitman side by side to a very precarious position on the track, but Heitman will take that position over as we do have some pit stops here. Hickenbottom just upset those tires. I think he is trying to change them. Carl Dodson also to the attention of his pit crew here as Robert Miller on screen on the bottom half of your display. He is being challenged by the 96 of Van de Sant.
Yeah, I'm going to keep my eyes on this battle for a second. It is a good battle. There's quite a big gap now between Van de Sant and Andrew Dyson, who has worked his way back up into the 4th position, right where he started at the drop of the green flag. Van de Sant had run down Robert Miller over the last couple of laps. Now that gap starting to expand just when we start to keep our eyes on it. Here we got this battle between Delaney and Alexander Russell. This is on the back half of the top 10 for right now, as it looks like Delaney not quite able to cut underneath that number 27. But remember here, Corey, the number 6 machine is making a recovery after that first caution as, whoa, we got a car way off the racetrack in turn number 12. And it kind of looked like a possible brake failure. Let's see if we can dial this one up here and see what happened to Neil Pearson. And whoa, geez, yeah, looked like a brake failure. He just spun around, clipped one of the cars going through there, Corey. That might have been the 41 of Jason Taylor. Let's get another look at this. Wow, geez. So he spins off into the gravel trap there, and luckily not a lot of damage on that. Surprisingly, I mean, it was fortuitous that the front end of the number 41 just clipped him right there and spins right around and grinds to a halt. I'm extremely surprised.
Yeah, sorry, my system just crashed on me. So, Carlos, you're not alone in that capacity. But yeah, the slalom move there by Pearson nearly executed perfectly. Just missed it by a whisker there. We'll get back to live footage here.
Yeah, Neil Pearson is on pit road right now in the number 62. So that very well could have been some type of hardware failure or brake failure, or, you know, it's happened to me before, or sometimes a little bit of a brain fade. Not sure exactly what, but hopefully we can see Pearson back out there on the racetrack. Is here on the long backstretch. We have Alexander Van de Sant still trying to close in on Robert Miller, who's starting to close back in on Lucas Hoytsma. So we might see a battle for the race lead start to brew in just a little bit. Andrew Dyson in the 04 is starting to march towards them as well as the field starts to accordion back together. It does look like the number 6 of Delaney has also made a couple of passes, getting around Russell and Pierce in the number 38 machine. So move Delaney up into 6th, trying to bounce back and get back to the top 5. As up at the top of your screen, you're looking at the number 41 of Jason Taylor racing with Patrick Gitter for position here in the stadium section. Some good battles out there right now.
Yeah, a lot of good racing here at GOATA. As you can see, the 41 of Taylor on the top of your display, getting by Gitter, as you stated there, through the stadium section. Looks like Hoffman trying to fill the gap in there. I don't know if he was able to do so, but Miller starting to close in about half a second. So definitely starting to put a little bit of work into that gap by Hoytsma. You can see on the bottom of your screen, Van de Stant just kind of hanging back there, but eyes focused on Dyson, 4.5 seconds back. We'll see if he could start eating into that, as we are just at the halfway point in tonight's efforts, if I can math.
And yeah, you can math. That's absolutely perfect. Do want to highlight a couple things have happened out there on the racetrack. Adam Benefield did have some connection issues, and that is the reason why he runs just up in front of the leaders at this stage of the game. Technically still on the lead lap, however, although we do now have one driver who is more than a lap down, and that is Neil Pearson, who continues to sit in his pit box. Not sure if the number 62 is calling it a night or not, but will be the first driver one or more laps down, at least until Benefield falls a lap down. Maybe he can stay in front of the leaders. We'll keep our eyes on that, waiting to get that lucky dog. It's about another full minute up in front of him, so if he does fall a lap down, that won't be that big of a deal, at least for a while, depending on when that next caution flag flies, if it even flies. We don't really know. But for right now, the best battle on the racetrack is this one right up at the front of the field. Hoytsma, Miller, Van de Stant, and Andrew Dyson continuing to march towards him.
Yep, coming through the stadium section here on board with, I can't tell who we're on board with. Hoytsma, actually, I believe it is, based on the data. I could be wrong, though. No, we're on Miller, excuse me. I'm trying to read the data here. So I lost my feed, so I'm only watching the back-end feed that you guys are watching at home. So it's a little bit different of a perspective for me. But coming through the latter end of the circuit here, he is closing into about that 0.6 of a second. We do have the slower car just in front. Don't expect too much of an issue through that. Coming through the final corner, you can see Hoytsma going a little bit wide, but still managing to get the run off corner exit. Does pull the distance by a couple feet there on exit, but we'll see who gets the advantage here on the hard braking zone. Looks like Miller is going to drive it in a lot deeper, all the way to the back bumper, but can he get the run off? Usually if you do one, you can't do the other. Looks like in that case, he may have been able to do so.
Yeah, drops a little bit of time, but does a really good job in that late apex. Out of turn number 6, now into 7, up into 8, now 9 right here at the top of the hill, down into turn number 10, which is this quick dog leg, almost flat out, at least when you're on fresh tires. Now into turn number 11, the hairpin right at the furthest end of the racetrack. The number 07 dragging the brakes just a little bit. I saw just a puff of smoke as they head down this long backstretch. The number 15 trying to get all the draft he can. Yes, you do get a draft on this backstretch. It is long enough where the draft does start to come into play into turn number 12. Hard on the brakes. It is a tight corner. It's more than 90 degrees, that turn number 12, Corey. It makes it very difficult for these drivers, because then you go into another corner right after it that's more than 90 degrees. You go through a couple of bends here into another corner that's more than 90 degrees. A lot of really tight corners right at the back half of the lap here. I've heard a lot of Formula One drivers say that, really the first half of the lap or so is a lot of fun. It's fast, it's flowing. And then you get to the back half where it's just these really sharp, tight corners back after, back to back almost. As, Robert Miller dives to pit road in the number 15 machine. This will not get us into the window where we can make it on one more, or at least to the end from here. He's going to have to pit at least once more before the end of the race, as we got another driver towards the back. It's the number 38 coming to pit road, it looks like. So Miller in his pit stall now from second.
Yep, so we had the strategy call. Is he hoping for another caution? Does he think that everybody else has to pit the equal amount of times more? Is he just off strategy and just out to lunch and just hoping that the gods come back in his favor? So a lot of things to consider there, but regardless of such, he is in pit road. So Hoytsma will now have 2 seconds over Van de Sant, which will be the next competitor for him to contend with. You can see Cam Stone in the 57 on the top of your display right now. He is currently running in the 8th position right now, with Hoytsma, our leader, on the bottom half of our multicam, trying to put Adam Benefiel yet another lap down after his connectivity issues on the evening. Must be something going around, because Carlos lost his feed. I'm having problems in Benefiel, so it could just be one of those Saturday nights here on iRacing. But thus far, lap number 36, just waiting to see what's going to happen next. Is it going to be a pit stop? Is it going to be an incident caution? Is it going to be some more loop-de-loops and spins? We'll find out together.
Yeah, now in the back half of the race, and if I'm the race leader, Lucas Hoytsma, I'm trying to use my best Sebastian Vettel blue flag right now. But unfortunately, for our race leader, you don't have to really adhere to the blue flags here in the 100% Cup Series. You're trying to fight to stay on the lead lap, because that's an opportunity where a caution comes out, which could happen any time. You're back into the mix. You're back into the fray. So Benefiel's going to do all he can. Hoytsma diving down onto pit road. So the 07 will give up the point to the number 96 of Van de Sant. Van de Sant did pit under that last caution, I do believe, if memory serves me correctly. So now that puts our top two, Van de Sant and Andrew Dyson. Actually, excuse me, I misspoke. Van de Sant pitted just before that caution came out. He pitted under green flag conditions, but got the benefit of the caution because he had already pitted. So he doesn't have as much fuel as Andrew Dyson, but he should have enough fuel to make it close to lap number 50 or so, as Mr. Producer's exclaiming.
So no follow-up, so we actually don't know why he's exclaiming, but exclaiming nonetheless.
Some contact we're hearing. Not sure where that contact may have originated. Probably this battle right here, as Alex Murray leads a four-car train right now with Russell, Long, and Anderson to follow.
All right, the details of the exclamation being displayed on screen right now. Entering turn number 1. Somebody going in to send it. Russell and Murray both going wide, +1 and +1 there to the incident count for each of them.
Yeah, I think Cameron Stone was the big beneficiary out of that whole thing. He's going to get a couple spots, move him up into 6th. Says
even.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, even a 5th place for Cam Stone. So top 5 for the Coors car, and see if he can pick off a couple more. John Delaney up to the 3rd spot. Dyson in 2nd. Of course, Dyson actually now he is fully encompassing our race leader right now, who is still stuck behind Adam Benefiel. So that may be slowing Van de Sant up, but that is all that Dyson needs, and that super fast number 04 simrigs.com Camaro closing in off of 20. And there goes Benefiel pulling out of the way. Sportsman-like maneuver there, as he is going to go 1 lap down. He will hope that caution comes out to give him the free pass here. But if you're Dyson, you just have to be patient. You know you have the car. You know you have the strategy. Just let it happen. If you're Van de Sant, don't push too hard now. You know you aren't as fast. Of course, you want to keep the lead naturally, but you also have to keep yourself in a good position. You don't want to push yourself too hard into making a mistake to hold on to a lead that you know you're probably not going to hang on to.
Yeah, it's all about, again, give and take and risk versus reward here. on this very tricky road course. Is Van de Sant, though, give him credit. He's done a great job keeping that number 96 nice and clean. He started at the back of the field, remember. He started, I think, down in 34th. And now racing his way to the race lead for the back half of the race. I don't think you can really do any better than that for starting that far back on a road course. He's used a little bit of strategy, which has also fallen his way to get up there, but he's making the most of it in that number 96 machine. I know we said that was that car might be illegal running the package.
He shouldn't be leading right now. That puts it more in the light for us to scrutinize. I thought Dyson was going to take a stab at it there in the hairpin. He was probably close enough to do so, playing the conservative route here through the stadium section. A lot of different ways to get through that section. You'll see guys go super wide. You'll see guys kind of run all the way to the inside and do shallow entries for all of it. So everyone kind of has their own strategies. Not a passing zone at all, but Tyson took a little bit of a look there, maybe just to scare Van de Sant in his rear view mirror or digital mirror, whatever he is running in his Camaro. But coming through the last couple sectors, really sliding it out wide there. +1 on the incident count for Van de Sant, but is he going to hold the lead? Answer to that is no. So what did he do there? He lost the lead and gave himself an incident in the process there as he was trying to hold on to Dyson to no avail.
Yeah, a little bit of a double whammy, but Van de Sant still in great position considering where he started here tonight. Andrew Dyson back to the point, our race leader. Meanwhile, back behind him, up at the top of your screen, you're starting to see this battle continuing to rage. Let's see if the number 97 of Long here has a look to the inside of Alexander Russell as they head off towards turn number 1. He does have a little bit of a look. 27 goes wide, gets on the brakes very late. Might have had a little bit of a lockup, but number 27 holds on. Now looking back at that battle.
Behind that, Matt Long just behind Russell there in the 97. He's been quiet here today. And I'm still learning the series as well. That's kind of where Andre comes in because he's been with these guys for multiple years. So I only covered, I believe, one road race for these guys. So I don't quite know the ringers versus the average guys versus the, God help me, is it next week yet, guys? I think I know a couple of those. Probably tomorrow, sick about him in the 00, maybe one of those guys. But I'm still learning. It looks like Matt Long may be a pretty decent road racer in himself in that 97, currently in 8th. But obviously, Dyson, I think he would qualify in Marcos Ambrose territory now with how he's been running in that 04 machine on the evening.
Yeah, it's been very, very smooth in that 04 machine as well. I haven't seen a lot of wheel spin, if any wheel spin, out of that 04 machine, and no significant mistakes like we just saw Van de Sant with that slide off the racetrack in turn number 19. So that 04 is looking good, but we still have plenty of laps left to go as we just made it 30 laps to go that last time by. We'll make it 29 laps to go this time by. Oh man, I thought that number 97 there at the top of the screen was going to make a lunge potentially to the outside through turn 15. Not that time, but he's as close as you can get here through turns 16, 17, and 18. It is really one long right-hand turn. As we look to the inside of 19. That's hard to make that pass.
He kind of aborted there last second, and then he just wound it back up to do it one more time. And kind of an equal opportunity move there. It was a send on both ends. He just sent it there. And Carlos, we need a +1 graphic every time someone goes wide, because there goes another +1. And what's that kind of game? You press the teeth on the alligator, and you never know which one's going to bite. That's kind of how it is every time someone goes off track. Is when's the alligator going to snap and cause that next caution to come out? But every time someone goes off, it just gets closer and closer.
Yeah, it's going to happen to us. I got to say, it's going to happen to us at least once tonight, where the car's going to go off, and then all of a sudden, poof, it's gone. And when that happens, it's a day done for that driver. But nonetheless, these two continuing to duke it out. They don't appear to be afraid of incident points at this stage of the game. If maybe the 97 of Long has some incident points to give, but if the 27, who might have just picked one up right there as he ran a little bit wide out of turn number 9, if he's got incident points or getting close to the incident count limit, you might think about giving up the position. I mean, that's not really what you want to do if you're a race car driver, Corey, but if you got a driver behind you who's really close and you're getting close to that limit, it might be the preferred option as long as another look to the inside.
Ooh, it's just so nerve-wracking, tight quarters there, and they both choke up the exit there to make sure they stay on circuit. The 27 is going to have a terrible entry into the right-hander here, entering the stadium. They're going to remain side by side. Not something you see too often through this sector of the track, but they're doing so successfully. A little bit of door tapping, never hurt anybody. 0 X's. They keep themselves on track. And then Anderson and the Terry Labonte ride trying to figure out where to go. Long trying to use the left side. This actually can work, running the left lane here in this sector. It'll set you up here to clear there and then get yourself in good position for 19 and 20. So good bit of driving there. Successful pass by Matt Long. Don't go wide there by yourself and kill yourself on an incident. He will move up into that 7th spot as that battle slightly fizzles, but looks like the 5 of Anderson may try to be next in line to pass the 27 of Russell here. A little bit too far back to get a run this lap, but we'll see if he can make something happen as the lap progresses. Caution on the speedway.
Wow. So this is going to be very, very interesting.
27 to go. So this is right on the absolute end of the fuel loop. So guys, please stay on track. I want to see a run and gun fuel battle to the right to the end. So we're right on the end of what we saw. I think the longest we saw was a 26 lap run. We're probably going to be right at that at the end of this thing. But that's if it stays green.
Yeah, I was doing the same numbers you were in your head. I'm going, wow, this is going to be tight, but it does stay somewhat in line with, I think, about 15 laps from the last time we saw a caution. And again, you add another 15 laps to the mix, and that puts us at 55 or so. So, I mean, if I don't want to say trends of the race, but the trend of the race is a caution every 10 to 15 laps at this stage. But of course, that can all change. But nonetheless, the advent of possibly fuel mileage has added another chapter to the book as the field will all line up behind the iRacing pace car as soon as it makes it out onto the racetrack. Corey, we're going to have quite a bit on our hands here to round out tonight's GOATA Grand Prix.
Yep, and what we haven't had thus far is attrition. Of the 35 drivers who took time here at Circuit of the Americas, we still have 33 on track. Just Benefiel and Pearson have taken it behind the wall, and all 33 still on the lead lap. So an issue of sorts will be catastrophic and send you very, very far back into the field. And of course, if you ran out of fuel, you're not making it back here at COTA unless you run out literally probably on pit road for that matter. So you really have to nail this and take that stab at it. Do you want to be the person that comes in on 1 to go and tops off? Is that going to be meaningful enough? Are you going to, I think if we go on board with some of these drivers on the pace laps, we're going to see a lot of guys clutching it 4th gear, trying to maximize the amount of fuel in that fuel cell, because you don't know. You can guess, you could assume, but you just don't know if it's going to be your run to the checkers or not.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. Now, do you want to make a quick mention about Adam Benefiel, who was the only driver a lap down when the caution flag came out. However, unfortunately for him, has fallen out of the session for a second time, and as such will not be receiving the lucky dog under this caution. I mean, what terrible luck for the 2001 Series champion Adam Benefiel in the number 83 machine. It seems like at this point it is likely
2001
done. 2021. You know, there's an extra. There's an extra number in there.
The NASCAR Thunder 2002 Series champion, Adam Benefiel.
Hey, there was, Papyrus was making games back then.
Driving through the forest, as this track was just a complete forest back in the era.
So, I lived in Austin at the time when this track was announced. I grew up in Austin, stayed in Austin until I was about 25, 26 years old, when I made my way out of college into the real world, if you will. But I'll always remember I was a senior in high school when this track was announced, and someone posted it on Facebook that, hey, Austin's getting a Formula One track, and I shot back a message extremely quickly saying, you're joking, this is absolute bug, this is never going to happen, because, they have a Formula One track in my hometown, just not going to happen. And that person snapped back very quickly with a link to the press announcement, and I was absolutely flabbergasted. I'll always remember I ran out into the living room and told my dad, there's going to be an F1 track in Austin. And of course he had the same response I did. No, what are you talking about? I think everyone has ever has an interest in racing has always fantasized about maybe having a race like in your backyard or down your street or something crazy like that. Now, I would say this was on the other side of Austin from where I grew up, but it was just a bunch of trees. You mentioned that, and it was. I remember going into the track site before they'd even broken ground on it, and it obviously looks nothing like it does today. And in fact, even since iRacing scanned this racetrack, they've added roller coasters and a whole bunch of crazy stuff to this track. They're really trying to make it an entertainment spot plus a track, where it started out as a track plus an entertainment place.
Yeah, I know this place was in financial hot water a few years ago. Luckily, that it seems to kind of be a non-issue at this point. But lucky you, as we do have pit stops right now. Let's see. We have a split strategy call there. That is a very interesting anomaly that I was not expecting. Dyson in the pits, along with Van de Sant, Heitman, Murray, Long, and company, but we do have a modest amount of drivers remaining on circuit.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because personally,
do they personally think that they can't make it from here? That's really all that I could come up with. They know that they can't make it, so they just say, what the heck, why not? But based on what we've seen, and I think it was, I'm trying to remember who it was, but there was one driver who stayed out until lap 26 on the first run. But that actually was with the assistance of a yellow. I do have to remember that. So maybe a full green run, no caution. Maybe that won't get you 26 laps, which at this point, let me take the track position. I'm going to have to pit anyways.
Yeah, that is possible. And you are right that was with the assistance of a caution flag. So, interesting.
But we will settle in on that factoid. We haven't got to take a little bit of a break yet, but I think this may be a good time to kind of reboost and get ready for what should be a rare and finish. So we're going to step aside for a brief moment, and we'll be right back for the restart, folks. Stay with us. And we're back here on 3Y TV for a restart of sorts. Luckily, admin does have the ability to shorten the yellow, so everybody was set up in order. So we got ourselves one more lap of racing here. Saw a bunch of pit stops there, and we saw a bunch of guys stay out. So who has enough fuel to the end? Does anybody? We don't quite know. So a lot of questions to be answered here in the remaining 25 laps, but Stone and Delaney on the front row. Looks like Delaney chose the outside as the control car really early in the zone. He went there, huge jump, and he'll appreciate that heading up the hill into one.
But look at this big lunge by Robert Miller, and another big lunge right at the front. Cameron Stone with a lunge for the race lead as everyone works their way through turn number 2 now. Remember, Corey, the S's were very tricky last time we had a restart. We had cars go around. We'll see whether or not that happens this time. So far, everyone looks like they're making it through nice and cleanly. And sure enough, everyone's still pointing in the right direction.
Yeah, it seemed because Delaney started that restart very, very early. We don't have naturally restart zones on road courses, so it is fully contingent on the leader going when he wants. And Delaney got that start very early, so the field was spread out, which, I mean, take it as it may, it creates a lot more spread out of a field, therefore everyone's not kind of on top of each other, which is what we see right now. And someone's around here. That's Van de Sant around, and he is right in the middle of the pack there, exiting the hairpin onto the back straightaway. So he's going to back up, get himself righted, and maybe in a few seconds we'll see what happens to him.
Well, that's a tough break for a driver who's been having a really good night after starting so far back in the field. And we'll see, I'm sure, a 3Y TV replay here momentarily of what sent him around, but he now has a lot of work to do in the back half of the race if he wants to get back up there towards the top 5 where he's been for the last 20 or so laps. Here we go. 3Y TV replay going down into turn number 11. Seemed like a little bit of a checkup in front of him.
There. Maybe Heitman.
Yeah.
Now we do have, so Van de Sant down to 32nd. We did have admin Damaris Hickenbottom out of the race. He is in the infield care center right now. Damaris, you got us, bud?
Yes, sir, I do.
So I do see you're out of the race. Is it on incidents, or did something happen to you tonight at the 00?
Yeah, I had a bit of a mechanical. I had somewhere in the middle of that first stage, my pedal started moving on me, and I must have either crimped something or unplugged something, because then when I was coming to catch the field under that yellow, I was getting some weird throttle control. So had to park it, and we'll lift this thing up and see what's wrong with the Fanatec's, but got some hardware issues in that.
Well, I know they could be slow on reaction time there, so hopefully you're able to solve it without needing support from them. But other than that, what kind of road course racer are you by nature, and were you having any fun out there tonight, trudging around here at GOATA?
I think slow would describe my style of road course racing, and it was a blast though. I mean, unfortunately, like I said, my pedal started moving, so I couldn't really race against anybody. But for the few laps I was up there, it's pretty fun. We're in the back trying to keep Dotson off me at the start of the race. So, but it's challenging, man. I'm here sweating like a pig. So we're gonna turn the AC down a little bit harder and maybe break out the fan and grab me a nice cold beverage and watch the end of this one.
Now, I don't know if this is proprietary information, and feel free to not give me the exact answer. I know we are on an incident trigger system. Is the number that sets the caution, is that proprietary, or is that something you can let us know as to how many incidents it causes to trigger a caution?
Yeah, that is something we do not advertise, just because obviously this software is anybody can download it, and then just to protect the competition of it all. So it's a number that only actually I know. Kevin doesn't even know what that number is. So it's just a random number, and I guess because of a bug in the software, I can't even see the numbers. That's even awesome. It just says total into 0 to me. So, but yeah, we just do that so that none of the guys know, and just so you can't kind of plan for it. Although you do kind of get the pattern, right? As I'm sure you can kind of pick up on. So it's usually around every so amount of laps or so on and so forth. So we'll probably sprinkle in some random cautions and some things going forward. But yeah, it's a secret number. Top G14 classified.
All right, copy that, man. So, well, we'll see you next week at, I believe, Richmond. I don't know the schedule as well as I should, but wherever it is, we'll see you next week, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, so that was league admin. So, slightly proprietary information there on what causes the caution, but we do know it's incident based at the very least. So, you can see on your display now, John Delaney, who has been up front for many a lap here today. Of course, he has not led since the very early stages, since the first caution has waved, but out front by about a second and a half. And again, referring to lap times, I don't know if you can bring up the graphic for us, Carlos. Camp Stone is out to play today. Well, actually, someone else who's out to play today is Robert Miller, who is going to try to make a pass on the 57 for that second spot. And he will take it. But what I was going to say is that Camp Stone was actually running equal laps to John Delaney. So that 57 has some speed, but the 15 seems to have just a tiny bit more here on the evening.
Yeah, and of course, we're still relatively early in this run since the caution. So as the laps continue to click away, it starts to wear on these drivers lap after lap. We did say it's a bit of an endurance race for road course standards. Now, just behind this shot, Lucas Hoytsma just made a pass on Clayton Hoffman to pick up the 4th position. So a couple of positions changing hand this lap inside the top 5. While you were interviewing Damaris Hickenbottom, I also made note of the 27 machine, Alexander Russell, going around the turn number 15. So another moment there, another couple of incident points. But at the top of your screen, you see number 97
on the pits. Hoytsma in the pits.
Hutchinson also coming down onto pit road. Now, we also saw the 04 machine of Andrew Dyson come down pit road. And we know that he should be good to the end, Corey. So he's, thinking about it now, if we now know the 04 can make it to the end of the race for sure, because I'm sure he would have pitted right when, his window opened. So we kind of got two strategies here. We got the fuel save plus likely needing a caution group. And then you got Andrew Dyson and these couple of other drivers just now working their way off the pit road, like Lucas Hoytsma, who we know are good to the end of the race from now. So Ralph Hutchinson also on and off pit road in his machine. So we'll see how those strategies play out. And of course, will keep us on the edge of our seats all the way to the end of the 2023 GOATA Grand Prix.
Greatest, in brackets, track of all time. Grand Prix. I think that's the the acronym, what it means there. But one thing that I've been in this position, Peter, where when you're in the fuel save mode, it is a very hard thing to do because you have to plan for that from lap number 1 and know that that's your strategy. And you're going to get past. You're going to go slow. You're going to look at the numbers and doubt yourself. But if you're going to do it, you have to full commit to that, undermining all of the circumstances and parts of you that wants to abort it. It is really, really hard to do it and to have the discipline to do it, especially not even knowing if it's actually going to work.
And you have to know
Miller into the pits.
Now. Oh, that's interesting. That, yeah, sure enough, Robert Miller on pit road right now, coming to his pit crew. But I was going to say, you have to know that these drivers here in this 100% Cup Series are running some type of software that calculates your fuel window, how much fuel you have to use, so on and so forth. But one thing that is overlooked, Corey, that we might even have been overlooking is the fact that, okay, even if you did pit under that last caution and you couldn't make it to the end of the race, well, now all you have to do is a splash of fuel. to make it the rest of the way. You might only need to add a lap worth of fuel. That's going to be a very quick pit stop, where some drivers like the 04 machine who just pitted a couple laps ago, he had to stay in his pit box for pretty much an entire 2 cans of fuel. So for Andrew Dyson, it's a long stop versus some of these other drivers who, they might have come down pit road, lost a little bit of track position, but they're going to have a shorter pit stop at the end. That could come into play as well. As you see a couple of battles breaking out here on the racetrack, there is the 04 of Andrew Dyson, who just passed the number 38 of Pierce as they work their far end of the racetrack. I've been keeping my eye on the number 97 of Long. He's been locked up in some good close battles over the past 5 laps or so. Right now, I think he's kind of got his own little bubble, but some really good hard racing in the mid-pack that we have seen throughout tonight's race, and continuing to push on into the latter stages, as we will have 20 laps to go this time by for our race leader, Delaney, who's working his way right now through turn number 19 and into the final turn. Now, got this battle, though, mid-pack into turn number 12, Corey.
Yep, battle on screen right now. Actually, I think we just have we have Wayne Garassi on screen in the number 3, but I do want to clarify your point there, Peter, about the fuel and this, how much to go. Every driver actually now, courtesy of the last update via iRacing, actually has a specific number that tells you how much fuel you need. iRacing actually included a auto fill feature, so these drivers can go into their iRacing telemetry boxes that are stock in the software, and it'll tell you, this is how much fuel I need to finish the race based on your current, fuel projections. So some of these drivers may know, they might just be using that preliminary software to say, hey, can't make it, never mind, as we do have Chris James in the pits. But focusing on what we do have on screen right now, again, Wayne Garassi in the 3. I believe it is the 3. He's in that Pennzoil car on the front straightaway right now, currently running... that is the 25th or so position on track. Getting passed by Dustin Hall. Very quiet run by Dustin Hall in the 1. Is usually one of our top runners. Just may or may not be a road course racer.
Yeah, you definitely find those really, really fast drivers on ovals. Some of them, it doesn't translate to turning right. They can only turn left, and then they absolutely despise these races on the road courses. They just kind of have to live through them, get to the checkered flag. Wherever you finish is where you finish. If you finish, it's a good point stay for a couple of these drivers out here on the racetrack. As seeing a little bit of smoke. Is that the the number 41 of Jason Taylor just had a massive moment through turn number 10 before the rundown to the hairpin at the far end of the racetrack.
51 of Baker. Yeah, he had a very similar move to Neil Pearson. He just drove it in, locked it up or something, and some very light contact into the. I'm not quite sure the material of the barrier there, but whatever it was, I'm sure a replay will queue up in a little bit of time here. But just another +1 and/or 2 there on the incident graphic here. Replay on screen. It's Kyle Ammon. Another one going off wide. I think that would also be a +1 of sorts. So I think, Carlos, you may need to get that sound effect, Mario, whenever he hits the block to get a coin. Every time we get a +1, we need to add the little coin sound there just to, tick another one up to the tally here. So makes you think that caution might be coming up. Sorry to cut you off.
I was going to say, speaking of that, Tanner Marty in the number 29 machine. Not sure why he's not out there on the racetrack anymore, but the Enterprise Rent-A-Car number 29 machine, I'm going back, kind of doing my...
Well, he was involved in an incident going off on one of the restarts, but again, at this point in the race, we're about 3/4 distance. You're going to see guys, as me and Andre like to say, incidented out. On that 21 cap, and as every driver starts going off, every time, it's, as I said, it's pressing the teeth on the alligator. One of those times it's going to snap you, and the more you press, the more likely it is that it's going to be that next time.
Yeah, and I went back, ran the replay, and unfortunately for Tanner Marty, ran wide number 19, and about 1 second later, the car went poof. So incident out for the number 29 machine here tonight. Tough break for Tanner, and I say it's a tough break, but it is a momentous thing to only have 21 incident points at this stage of the race. It is.
Well, luckily for Tanner Marty, a little channel plug here, he'll actually be racing at this track on Monday on PTR TV in a separate league, so I guess he will use all of these skills to not stay on the track, and maybe he'll implement them to stay on the track at his next event here with a slightly different incident structure. Every league kind of doing its own different thing here. Is Matt Diciani. Well, yep, he is taking a... Okay, Carlos, you're killing me with the cameras here. Let's see how we got Jeremy Miller, and we do have somebody in the pits there on the bottom of the display. I think that's Cam Stone in the 57. He is coming to the attention of his crew as 24 on screen. I think that's Sean O'Brien. I don't think we've said his name once yet today other than the starting grid, so a very quiet day for him as well. But I think we are closing in on the point in this stint where I think more guys are coming in. I don't really think anybody is seeming to want to do the long haul tonight, so I think it's going to be a matter of pit stops and who pit early, who pit late, and how it all coagulates. But it seems like everyone is committing to the pit stop.
Yeah, I think you're right, but like I said, some of those drivers who pitted under that last caution, they'll just need a splash of gas to make it to the end of the race. I was keeping my eye on Jason Taylor in the number 41 machine. He was slow through the stadium section of the racetrack, had to lock up the brakes to avoid going off the racetrack, which kind of tells me he might be getting close to that incident count. But Kevin Steele made a little bit of contact with the number 41 machine, and for Jason Taylor, he lost a couple of positions. Not sure if we'll be able to kind of get a 3-wide TV replay of that little bit of a coming together there about a half a lap ago or not, but either way, the number 14 lost a couple of spots, and I'd have to think with the sponsor and the rear of that number 41 machine, the rear has Jedi with a Texas license plate on. Let's see if we can see this on this 3-wide TV replay. And so he runs wide there, grinds
tries
it
to
to
stay
a
on
halt,
track. Yep.
and then just a boink.
Kevin Steele was like, hey, I didn't expect to have to slow down that fast there. And John Delaney, race leader, to the attention of his pit crew here with 17 circuits around here at GOATA. See if he can have a nice successful stop. No speeding, no sliding the pit box. Nice smooth entry. Looks like he succeeded in that endeavor, so he will... he's still actually being registered as the leader for the time being. Matt Long will now just pass him in the 97, stays on track for one more lap in the 97.
Oh gosh, I just had to hold my breath as Cameron Stone, who's still drifting around the racetrack, he's bringing out the Tokyo Drift, drifted through turn 16, 17, and 18, and then almost got hit from the driver that he's locked in a battle with as they head up towards turn number 1 right here, Clayton Hoffman. And it's the Curb Records number 92 going to make the pass there into turn number 1. But that was a scary moment for Cameron, drifting his way around the racetrack. Those tires very much not happy with him as he drifted through 16, 17, and 18. And then he drifted out of turn number 20, which gave Clayton Hoffman a great opportunity to make that pass that we saw there in turn number 1. Looking a little bit further forward, however. There's the number 24 machine, rather. That's a little bit further behind Cameron Stone. Sean O'Brien, like you said, having a quiet night, but so far I don't see a scratch on the Arctic Cat machine. And he's staying between the lines and putting together a fairly solid run here, running 16th currently.
Yeah, sometimes, if you can't be fast and you can't, be comfortable with your pace to make aggressive moves, so just stay on the track and try to win it via attrition. So, well, maybe not win it, but you don't have a solid via attrition, as you can see just there. Actually, we have that's Robert Anderson on the top half of your display right now, but just behind O'Brien, Matt DeCiani made a pass on Ralph Hutchison. DeCiani, a fast driver on the evenings. Worth noting that after the pit stop, John Delaney has been fallen back to the 5th position. The 4 drivers in front of him have yet to pit about 9 or 7 laps into their stint. So whether they are going to try to make it to the end, I don't know, but Delaney only has 11 seconds, and he does have the pace on basically everybody ahead of him. So it will be interesting to see if he has the pace to get it naturally, or if the strategies do work into their favors. Time will tell over the next 16 laps here at COTA. As who is that? Some smoke. Hoytsma, hard of the binders. Matt Long as well. All as well, though. Everybody will slow down to make the corner, but definitely locking up the binders.
So one thing about one of your statements there, Corey, is that Andrew Dyson in the 04 is out in front of Delaney. In fact, Delaney's locked in a battle side by side there, top of your screen. Just looked away for a brief moment. And Robert Miller in that number 15 battling with Delaney for those precious spots out there on the racetrack and the track position. But Andrew Dyson is out front. Now, the big question with Andrew Dyson is he pitted, I think, with about 25 laps to go. We think that is right on the edge of the window. But he's about 8 or so seconds up the road from Delaney. So that is pretty impressive that Andrew Dyson has that gap and is likely good to the end on fuel, especially if we see a caution. That will ensure that he's good on fuel. We'll just keep our eyes on whether or not that's the case, or whether Dyson has to back it down and do some fuel saving. But for right now, long as our race, Pat Gitter is in second. But they do have the hard charger, Andrew Dyson, who last I looked had the fastest lap of the race. And
209, yeah, I think the only driver who... Nope, John Delaney did as well, but 209.76 to a 209.89, so fastest lap of the race award, which I don't think it is an award, but it is in very primitive sense, would go to the 04. It will be interesting once Delaney completes a full lap without having a battle to see what his lap times will be, as we do have Matt Long coming to the attention of his crew. That'll move everybody up one spot. But I do want to see what Delaney's lap times are going to be in relation to Dyson. This past lap, not a good example because of that battle, but once we can see that, we'll be able to kind of answer if Dyson's tires will be of any detriment to him in comparison to Delaney, as that gap is about 8 seconds. But here comes Dyson all over Gitter, and this is for the lead. Dyson wants to get it as fast as possible. He wants clean real estate. He wants to pull away, but that 21 not going to roll over without a fight. Can't make the pass here, but he's going to try to set it up, I believe, here headed down the hill.
Yeah, didn't get a great run out of turn 9, and runs a little bit wide in turn number 10. Give a little bit extra room to Gitter, but hard on the brakes, late on the brakes for that 04 machine, that late apex.
Oh!
Almost made contact. That's actually going to be to the detriment of Andrew Dyson, because he had to check up a little bit right there at that apex, and Gitter's able to scoot away just a little bit down the long straightaway. This will give Delaney an opportunity to close in just a little bit.
Sends it! And he made it! And he kept it on track, too, so full marks. Triple threat pass there by Dyson. Sends it, keeps it on track, and completes the pass. So, but all the while, Delaney was able to gain about 1-ish seconds through that endeavor. So that may or may not come into play. But every position that Dyson had to pass, Delaney's going to have to pass him as well. So we'll see if Delaney is going to have any trouble and if that gap does change. But we would assume, based on the telemetry, that Dyson is good, as we said, on fuel. Gitter and Heitman, very borderline, but plausible. But right now, it does look like Delaney is definitely gaining in. He is within the 7-second buffer, but 14 lap basically has to be, what does the math say, half a second faster a lap to get down to his back bumper.
Yeah, and that's going to be difficult with just how good Dyson has been here tonight. Not only has he been fast, but he's also minimized mistakes. So it's going to be difficult. Not saying it's impossible, but it's definitely going to be a tall task. But a caution flag could change everything. And at the rate they've been coming out, we do expect to see one kind of inside 20 laps to go. So we're at 14 to go right now. We have, of course, had the first driver to succumb to incident points in tonight's race. And number 29 of Tanner Marting will be our 32nd place finisher. But I'm watching a big battle right now. So they're packed in the battle I'm watching. Currently around the 14th, 15th position, Matt Diciani in his number 4 machine might have just barely nudged the number 24 of Sean O'Brien. There
you were just talking about O'Brien not having a scratch on the car, and then 2 laps later may or may not have been involved in an incident. So it is kind of the commentator's curse there, if indeed that was the case here. You can have the multicam on screen to see what's going on, as the 4 still in hot pursuit of the number 24. Got a good run off of there, heads down the left-hand kink, and 2 passing zones will open up here on the left-hand 90-degree corners here at COTA. And 24 wheel hop there, but somehow managed to collect himself. I don't know how he did. Completely slid the brakes there, but still managed to get a good run on the backstretch.
Yeah, I don't think he lost any time, honestly, to any of the cars around him. Kind of was able to corral it, get it rotated for that late apex and power down the back straight. So good job there by Sean O'Brien, but another big send by Diciani right back behind him. And he saw right there at the apex, they were nice and tight with one another once again. But now O'Brien running a little bit wide through this infield section. At least it feels like an infield section with how tight it is, but
Dyson in the pits. Dyson in the pits.
Oh, that's a shocker. I thought he was going to be good to the end.
Yeah, 22 laps, and he fuel only. He was in there for that there of 2 seconds in the pit box, I believe it was. That puts him back to, he merges back out in the 8th spot. So he's going to be 18 seconds off the lead and 14 seconds behind John Delaney. So absolute kind of flabbergasted by that. Maybe he was hoping for a caution, and that would have been the buffer he needed, just didn't get it. And that will put the race lead in the hands of Patrick Gitter by 2 seconds over Derek Heitman, and then Delaney back by 5 seconds in third, but presumably has it in hand via the strategy card. But again, never know if that yellow flag is done coming out on the evening.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back, look at my notes, because Andrew Dyson has pitted on lap number 11, pitted again on lap number 27, then pitted on lap number 42. And we felt like from lap number 27, we felt like he could go 25 laps. So we felt like he could, from lap number 27, we felt like he could probably go to lap number 52, but he decided to pit early around lap 42. And then we thought, okay, well, that's, about 26 laps to go. Maybe he can make it there. But he definitely could have made it to, lap number 52 to make that stop. So he must have just made a little bit of a strategy blunder and pitted too soon to make it into that realm. Or maybe he didn't take on a full load of fuel at one point. I'm a little bit unsure. But that is a tough break for him.
So he is going to be praying for a caution probably within the next 2 to 3 laps. Gives him enough time for everyone to get coagulated back together and enough time to pick off some drivers and maybe hope for some issues. Not that you want to hope on anybody else's bad luck, but I mean, if it works into your favor, then you're going to hope for it all day long. So that's probably where he is going to stand. And I guess really all we're waiting for at this point, Peter, is Gitter and Heitman 1 and 2 now. We're just inevitably waiting for them to pit. I'm just looking at their stint data, and at least from what I'm seeing, they have been on circuit for 14 laps. That will be 26 laps of green flag conditions, which we have yet to see tonight. So I really would not fathom them being able to make it. So really, it looks like that number 6 machine, last season's champion, already won 1 race this season. And Delaney goes wide. I bring him into fruition there, and he goes wide, and that's a +1 on the incident count. Actually lost the spot to Robert Miller.
So now put Miller possibly in the catbird seat. How things change quickly here in the 100% Cup Series.
Commentator's curse. Apologies for that, I suppose, but Miller does have the older tires in relation to Delaney, but we have been told tires aren't that, in air quotes, important, but I do think they have enough that you want to have the fresher set if at all possible. But Delaney's going to have to get to work and try to get by that 15, who definitely has the pace, even if the slightly older tires.
Yeah, and of course, commentator's curse. I was saying the 04 hasn't really put a step wrong out on the racetrack all night long, and then he goes and possibly makes a blunder with the pit stop. So, commentator's curse. It's strong here on 3 Wide TV. I found that one out over my years of commentating here on this channel, but nonetheless, a good battle up at the top of your screen, as well as currently Jeremy Miller continues to lead this 3-car battle. Sean O'Brien, the meat of the sandwich, and Matt Diciani in the number 4, currently riding at the back of this small train.
Looks like that is in the realms of about the 10th, 14th, 15th, or 16th spots on track. So closest other battle on track right now, besides our battle for what eventually should come into fruition as our race lead, as we close in on 10 laps to go here in the GOATA Grand Prix. Of course, you're going to want to stay tuned for next week's race, which you would think I know the NASCAR schedule. I want to say it's Richmond. Does that sound about right next week? Or is it? I don't know, but wherever it is, we'll be there. It may or may not be on PTR TV, but you can stay tuned to social media for that. So, of course, every Saturday night that there is a NASCAR race weekend, you'll have the 100% Cup Series here. So you want to stay tuned for that. Division 2 on PTR TV. And I know you guys get some other content on the channel, so make sure you like and subscribe. And stay tuned to some good iRacing content if you're a fan of what we are doing here. But still some great battles on track, and Miller still hanging on to Delaney. Delaney in that dirty air and trying to get by a car of very comparable pace, struggling to do so. But while they are doing that, they are both closing in on the actual race leaders of Gitter and Heitman.
Yeah, Gitter and Heitman. I was just kind of thinking about this while you were talking about what you were talking about. And by the way, it is Richmond. I did look. But I don't really see why Gitter and Heitman would stay out this long unless they think they have a shot of making it with a caution. Because if a caution flag was to fly right now and they have to come down pit road, as someone in the back of the shot, I don't know who that was. Someone ran well off the pace. Might have been a lapped car, I think it was. But going back to my point, if Gitter and Heitman have to come down pit road under the caution flag, if a caution flag does fly, they will lose a ton of track position. They'll fall all the way back to the back half of the field because most people have made their final pit stop at this point. So I don't really know what they're gaining other than airtime and being up there at the top of the leaderboard for a little bit if they can't make it on fuel.
Yeah, if they can't make it.
They can. We'll see.
If they can't make it, absolutely no point. If they can make it, the ultimate situation is what is the net gain versus where you were running before and where you were going to finish before. So I think Gitter, Heitman he's been all over. I don't really know an average position for him, but Gitter I think was back into the top 10. So if he stays out and gets himself a top 5 out of this, the strategy was a net gain. But again, you have to know that you're going to make it. But all of the data we have, which take it as what it may, says that they can't make it. So, but what you can see here, you may be able to see it in the long shot at certain angles, but both Miller and Delaney are within striking range of Gitter and Heitman, only 2.5 seconds back. So they will lose the lead on their strategy call basically, well, now, because coming through the stadium section, they're there.
Yeah, and if they are having to save fuel, which they would have to based off of the data that you were talking about, they will continue to bleed more time because of that saving and the saving strategies that they'll have to do. But this will make things a little bit interesting for Miller and Delaney. And of course,
Heitman peels off.
Yep, Gitter and Heitman, both of them.
And I do
maybe they were listening to us.
I do have a little tidbit of knowledge from our YouTube chat. Driver Neil Pearson, the Aussie, remember he is retired from the event, said that Dyson had a drive-through, presumably penalty, from the last caution that he may or may not have, he must have had to serve a drive-through penalty. I don't think it was an iRacing administrative penalty because it didn't show that. Or maybe it did, I just missed it, but he was serving a penalty and then chose to splash while he was in there. Or actually, for a drive-through, you do still have to stop in your box, I think, the way that the system works. So he was serving a penalty of sorts, and that is why he pit. We don't know why. We don't know why. I'm sure somebody does. Maybe you can let us know in the YouTube chat, but that is what happened to Dyson.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm going to have to go back.
All the while, Miller did lose the lead, so John Delaney back to P1.
I'm going to have to go back and see if I can figure out why.
On the passed restart, the pace are entering pit entry. And Neil Pearson is a plethora of information, of which we do appreciate, sir, so thank you for that.
Yeah, interesting. Andrew Dyson was also really slow on that restart, laid back a little bit. I thought maybe it may have been because of that, but nonetheless, Andrew Dyson having to make up for that, trying to make up for that, currently riding down there in the 5th spot. Still a good night for him, and he is closing in on Alexander Van de Sande in the number 96, who's also made a really good recovery, kind of quietly made a good recovery, because remember, he was up there near the front of the field, and then he spun out there just after the halfway mark, and we're saying, well, he's going to have to kind of really start it where he started the night, back there in 34th, and he has made his way up to almost in the top 5. So good job by Van de Sande, as he now is back in the top 5. Battle up there at the top of your screen is Cameron Stone in the Coors Light Mobile. Clayton Hoffman still following him. Those two have been locked in a battle now for about the last 10 or so laps.
Hoffman has been in a plethora of issues here today of different sorts, but due to the nature of it, still has himself into the top 10. Rather impressive, but also impressive is the fact that Miller, again, on those slightly more aged tires, still hanging with Delaney. And you're starting to see in the bottom half of your screen the different sectors of COTA, where you have your S's, you have your hairpins, you have your stadium section, you have your kind of 90-degree corners. We're starting to see where each driver is having their strengths and weaknesses. It looks as though Miller is better through the technical bits, but it seems as though Delaney has him on the more high-speed bits, and I wonder if that attributes to the fresher tires. But 2 big braking zones coming up, and Miller definitely going in full send. Maybe try to push Delaney into a mistake, pulls right to the back bumper, down the back straightaway, and maybe a little bit of a draft. We'll see what happens into the sharp hairpin.
Yeah, Delaney's going to have to defend here, as we might see a late lunge from Robert Miller. He's kind of showing his nose a little bit. No, not this time. We'll close up right to the back bumper of the Chevy Camaro. Of course, Ford only with 1 win this season in the manufacturer standing side of things. Chevrolet has been the dominant force as Delaney runs wide. Woo! Gets back just in front.
Not sure. Potentially. It was right on the borderline. But that's, I think, maybe that's Miller's strategy at this point. Save the tires and just force Delaney into mistakes, going wide, adding to the incident count. I can't imagine Delaney's anywhere close to 21, but for all we know, maybe he is.
Andrew Dyson has also picked up another spot. He picked up P4 from Alexander Van de Sande. So move Andrew Dyson one spot away from the podium, just Lucas Hoytsma now separating him from that podium. And of course, Hoytsma's not too far out of the picture as well from the front two, as the 07 is currently just about 3.5 seconds on back behind Delaney. And if these front two start to tussle a little bit more as the lap count winds down, we're down to just 7 laps to go now. That might bring Hoytsma back into the picture even more, although Hoytsma had a huge slide.
He was 0.3 of a second faster on the stopwatch last lap in comparison to both of our leaders. And actually, Andrew Dyson almost a second faster than our leaders last time by. Now, I don't think he's going to get 8 seconds in 6 laps. That's a little bit far-fetched given any massive mistakes, but these leaders are not the fastest drivers on the track. And if they battle and play games with each other up here, play push and shove, and who's going to drive harder and make a mistake, that will increase the probability of a lead change or your battle.
Yeah, you got to get the arms out sometimes here in the 100% Cup Series. That's for sure. If you start to get close to the end of the race and a possible win is on the line. So we'll see what is going on, and it looks like we may have at least lost our feed on the commentator side of things, but we'll keep you guys going with play-by-play coverage for sure. It looks like, there we go. We got it back. So, but up at the top of your screen and the bottom of your screen, picture-in-picture, 2 different looks of the battle for the race lead and potentially the race win when this is all said and done, as Miller gets close in turn 15.
He's better through the technical blitz, but these long sweeping corners, I think those slightly fresher tires by Delaney are benefiting him in these sections, which, if you think of the grand scope of the lap, do you want to be better on the first end or do you want to be better on the second end? I personally would rather be better on the second end, but if you're only better on the first end, then you have to somehow make it work. Delaney kind of sliding the rears there on the exit of 20, but still managed to get a decent run off, and it does look like Hoytsma and Dyson have kind of stabilized with their gaps right around 3.5 and 7 seconds respectfully. You can see Delaney's tires there, his brakes rather, his rears were lighting up, not so much the front. So I wonder if he has some brake bias adjustments put into that number 6, maybe trying to free up the rear end here on some of these entries here at COTA as they come through the S's.
And of course, that is one of the options that these drivers do have to play with throughout the night, is the brake bias. Sometimes you want to dial a little bit further forward. Sometimes you want to dial it a little bit further back. If you want a little bit more bite on entry into the corner, well, you can dial it back a little bit, although it only works to a certain point, Corey, and then you have too much bite into the corner and the back end is coming around on you. So it's something that you can play with. You just, again, you have to find that balance when you're running these road courses with the brake bias that you use throughout the run. And I've especially found that playing with a brake bias on road courses with these stock cars can be more beneficial even than on the oval side of things, because if you start to feel like you're overheating the rear tires a little bit, you can maybe move it a little bit.
Yeah, Delaney was really free on the brakes there. Again, if he has more rear brake in there, it will put some more pressure on the rear tires there, which could cause you to step out. But definitely when you have more rear brake into it, you're going to be looser. And when you're looser, you're kind of driving the car more with the throttle, which can cause you to light up those rears and make your exits a lot more difficult, as I think Delaney may have just described for us. But even so, he was able to pull away, and this is typically where he is better on circuit, pulls away to 3/4 of a second. So now he has a fair bit of breathing room to deal with here, as on screen. Sean O'Brien Jr. on the top half of your display running in the 15 spot, but that 3, 4, 5 tenths of a second, now upwards of a second, Is Miller losing them? Is he cooling the tires off for one final charge? I guess we'll have to find out, but 5 laps to go. This race is ticking to its conclusion.
Yeah, and there is a lapped car. The number 3 of Wayne Grassi is just now coming off pit road. Both the number 3 machine as well as the Coleman number 44 of Randy Drumhiller, both coming down to make their final pit stops of the night. But looks like Andrew Dyson's going to have to deal with the lap traffic of Grassi as the lap count winds down. Not sure if the number 3 is going to let him on by nice and neatly, maybe in one of the more opportune locations to let the front 4 kind of duke it out. We'll wait and find out. But Delaney here, Corey, has put a little bit of a gap now, probably about 20 car lengths or so back to Miller. Do you think maybe Miller is cooling those tires for a late race charge with 5 laps to go?
I mean, it'd be nice to say from the commentator creating drama perspective, but the reality is that we have Sean O'Brien Jr. with a sideways little excursion there on the top half of your display. We caught that live. But I do think the reality of it is that he probably is just kind of done. And he's going to, of course, not give up. But I don't think at this point you'd fall back that far, but you never know. But one thing to remember, the caution flag is not done waving until the white flag flies, and we do have green-white checkers enabled for this race. So remember, this is the longest stretch we've gone this race without a yellow flag, and we have seen a bunch of guys go off. So up until that white flag waves, this race is not yet over.
Yeah, that is a very, very, very good point. Cameron Stone in the number 57 is off the pace. Not sure why the number 57 is off the pace, but is losing spots left and right. The only thing I can think of is Cameron Stone is close on fuel and might be in danger of running out. But you see, you see he's clutching it there on the right bottom hand corner of your screen. That tells me, yeah, he surely is short on fuel. Losing another couple of spots here. Last time by at the stripe, he was in 11th, but he's going to fall back to 17th position this lap. Meanwhile, in front of him, look at this battle. Top of your screen, side by side through 16, 17, and 18. And Jeremy Miller and Diciani, they know the lap count's winding down.
Yeah, they do. Side by side through sections of the track you don't usually do, and Diciani will get by. I was seeing if 30 would be able to do a crossover move, but he will fall back in the line. And heading into 20, and will have to suffice. I don't know if maybe he'll be able to surge with a comeback, but look at the telemetry on the top left of the ticker, Peter. We talked about, did Miller, cool the tires off or what have you, but that gap is closing in as we have contact between Diciani and Miller. Miller sent it into the hairpin there. Diciani with the short end of the stick. Caught that live on cam there. I don't think Diciani will be too happy about that, but battle for the lead is shaping back into fruition. Maybe we can get that back on the dual cam there because Miller is back within a half second, closing in on 3.5 or so to go.
And that is 8 incident points closer to a possible caution because it counts twice, because it's a total incident count that brings out the caution. So the 4Xs combine into the Mega 8X. Well, we see another caution. Only time will tell. Delaney holding on to about a half, now 3/4 of a second lead as they work their way through the penultimate corner. Miller doing all he can.
This is where typically, again, Delaney's faster, but this is also where you can leverage in very risk-taking manner. Let's say you're at 10 incidents right now. If you're Miller, sure, let me go send it here. Let me go send it there. I can use these incidents kind of as a almost like an IndyCar push to pass there as we have some locking up there into one. You don't want to do that because what if there's a green-white checker then you get doored? But, that's just the risk. If you have those incidents to play with, you can use them to your advantage.
Yeah, that is a good point, and I'm sure some of these drivers have that in mind as we just now have 3 laps to go, because you can get a whole whale amount of incident points in a lap here at GOATA, but they can also really help your lap time. Miller absolutely stellar through turns number 7 and 8, closing right in on the back bumper of the number 6 machine. A lot closer than he was this time a lap ago, closing down to about a half second, doing a great job on the apex, getting it power down maybe a little bit too soon, though his back end steps out from the number 15. As they head down the backstretch, he'll have to use as much draft as he can to make up for that mistake. Like I said earlier in the show, the one corner you do not want to mess up is the exit of turn number 11, because you feel that all the way down that long straightaway. If you lose, 5/100ths of a second in the first half of the straightaway, you're losing 5/100ths of a second in the second half. You just can't make up for it. But now the 6 of Delaney having trouble through the middle portion of the sector here, and they get tight through turn 15.
Maybe Miller just saved the rear tires for this very difficult section towards the later end of the run, but it's getting to the point where you're going to have to play the cards. Can't play games anymore. But if there's one thing that I can tell you, Peter, is that John Delaney is not someone that you're going to beat in a braking zone. As he goes wide, is he using that, maybe is he using an incident to spare there? He didn't seem to care. Not trying to rhyme there, but I did anyways. He didn't seem to care about going wide there, as they're both wiggling off turn 20. But if there's one guy into a braking zone you're not going to outbrake, I'm going to tell you it's going to be that 6. So if Miller's going to get him, he's going to have to get him in an unorthodox part of this racetrack.
Yeah, he's going to have to likely get a good run out of turn number 11 and get him on the brakes into turn number 12, but it's going to be a momentous case or situation as we're down to just 2 more laps to go. Here's an interesting thing, though, that I just thought of, Corey. What if you're trying to use one of those incident points to spare, and you're the one that brings out the caution?
That would be something I actually wish would happen, because that would be very, very interesting. But we are running out of opportunities for that to actually come into fruition. But just look at, he fell back, Miller did, about a second exiting turn number 1, and then he gets about half of it back. He's going to try to dive it into the braking zone to try to get whatever he can. And I'll tell you, he entered the braking zone deep and still got on the power. He's closer this time than he was last. And we'll see. He's in send it range. But as I said, you're not going to outsend John Delaney. If any, they might outsend each other. Quarter of a second, he's there. Let's see what happens on the binders into the hairpin. Nice, smooth, and methodical corner by each, but right to the back bumper. But this is Delaney's wheelhouse.
Yeah, Delaney doing a good job kind of closing the door, maybe taking a little bit of a defensive line there. Not taking a defensive line this time, as he got well out wide, able to shut the door on Miller. In fact, checked up Miller's run. That's going to be a little bit of an advantage to Delaney. As we come to the white flag this time, we will not see the caution flag if they can make it to the start-finish line without seeing the yellow wave.
Didn't go wide there. If he had an incident in the bank, he didn't choose to use it, but he's going to have to take those defensive corner entries. You can't take those, traditional entries on white flag, because Miller's going to fill in the gap, and he's closer at this point on the track than he's been in many a lap. So if he can get through turn 1 pretty well, he's going to be in his wheelhouse, which is the S's up through the hairpin. But no, he overcooked it there, and that's going to cost him about half a second. Goes back to 3/4 of a second. So he's really going to have to get a good run and probably persevere through the parts of the track he's not strongest. But we do have some traffic just ahead.
Yeah, Delaney can now focus on hitting his marks maybe a little bit more than he could last lap. That's going to give him a little bit of an advantage to the number 6. But Miller's so good in this sector of the racetrack, the first sector, closing back in, making up for that mistake a little while ago as they worked their way up to turn number 9 to wiggle out of the number 6 machine. Corey, they're wheeling it here on the final lap as the lappers look to get out of the way. Here we go into turn number 11.
And
Miller going way wide.
Yeah, I think Miller was trying to do a late apex there to get a good run down the back, but he just overcooked it. And I mean, he's not too far out of it, but he's far enough out of it that he's going to need Delaney to make a catastrophic mistake to get back to the bumper, or he just royally just dives at full send, which I don't think he is going to do so. Delaney will get down on the brakes nice and smoothly, heading into the left-hander, into the stadium section. This is traditionally Delaney's hot zone, and he has about 3/4 of a second buffer in the bank here. So as long as he keeps it on track, doesn't have any issues, presumably this should be Delaney's ball game here, but still a fair amount of racing left to go.
Meanwhile, back behind him, Andrew Dyson sent it on Lucas Hoytsma, but was not able to make it stick. Drops back to fourth, was third momentarily, just could not make it stick. But Corey, penultimate corner, Delaney locks it up a little bit, but Miller's not close enough.
Yeah, luckily he had the buffer so that he could make the mistake and get away with it. Delaney will come off the final corner, and king of the road here in Austin. Miller had the speed, but just not enough when it mattered. John Delaney is going to win the first road race of the season for the 100% Cup Series.
Yeah, what a battle that was, all the way to the checkered flag. Great job there by that number 6 machine to get the dub. Miller coming home in second. Was a great race for him. Didn't have the best start in that number 15, but it's not the start that matters. It is the end. Hoytsma, great run for him in third, and Andrew Dyson, momentous drive to get back up to fourth, but I'm sure he'll be kicking himself after that one here tonight. Yeah, nonetheless, great race.
Would have been interesting to see how that played out if Dyson didn't have that penalty, because we were going to work into a position where Delaney was going to have to try to get him on pace. But either way, Delaney, he started on the pole. He led the first 10 or so laps. The rest of the race was really kind of in comeback mode, and circumstances fell into his lap. And you can see here a lot, because of the nature of this track, it's going to be a long time before everybody actually takes the checkered flag to finish their efforts here. So you can see right now Delaney coming through and getting some congrats from the 22 of Alex Murray, but we still do have some drivers finishing their laps. I don't really see any active battles to speak of at the moment, so that may or may not be it. So we will soon start our post-race show, but we'll see if Delaney chooses to kind of burn it down for us anywhere. Still has a ways to go before he gets back to start-finish.
You know, one thing that I wasn't exactly keeping my eye on, but Chris James, Jason Taylor, Dalton Mobley, and Jason Baker all incidented out at the end of the night as well. So I think we only had 27 actual finishers at the end of the race.
Which is still a fair amount for a road course, and most of them on the lead lap. So still a good effort by all these guys. But Delaney, he's already, I think he's ready to do a victory lane celebration and a interview at the same time. So we can go ahead and pull him in for interviews, or do we want to do the results first? I'm still kind of learning the flow here on the channel. All right, we'll do results first. So with our final finishing order here from the GOATA Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas, John Delaney with that checkered flag in the thrilling battle over Robert Miller. Lucas Hoytsma in third. Andrew Dyson, the Herculean effort to get a solid run after the penalty, back to fourth. Van de Sant, an up and down day in the illegal number 96, but he finishes in fifth. Alex Murray in sixth. Matt Long, a solid seventh. Patrick Gitter, he led some laps. He was in eighth. Heitman had a very interesting day as well in ninth. And Clayton Hoffman, a solid 10th place run.
Yeah, and as Delaney does his burnouts here on the front stretch, 11th position goes to Robert Anderson here tonight. Jim Schofield finishing in 12th. Jeremy Miller, 13th. Ralph Hutchinson finishing in 14th. Matt Diciani, 15th. Sean O'Brien able to bring it home in P16. Kevin Steele, P17. And then we got the number 38 machine of Brandon Pierce right back behind him in 18th. A little bit further back in the field, number 19 for the 19th position. Falls to Dustin Hall. Quiet night for him. And Alexander Russell rounds out our top 20.
Then kind of rounding out the mid-pack here, 21st, Nolan Hodgson. Kyle M in 22nd. Carl Dodson in 23rd. Wayne Grassy, 24th. Randy Drumhiller, 25th. Cam Stone, he was on camera a lot today in multiple capacities, but had to settle for a 26th. We have Tracy in Rob Tracy in 27th, Jason Baker 28th, Dalton Mobley and Chris James round out your top 30. And then just to finish out the field quickly, Jason Taylor, Tanner Marty, Damaris Hickenbottom, Adam Benefield, Neil Pearson, and Raymond Root are 36 endeavors here on the evening. But I think we will head right to Victory Lane, which here will be at the front straightaway. And, well, John, you got the pole. You led a bunch of laps early. The strategy kind of brought you back. And then the whole rest of the race was kind of comeback. And then at the very end, you had a Herculean battle there trying to hold off Robert Miller. One of the hardest fought wins you've had in quite some time. Just kind of talk about your night, man.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm sweating. That had been the best. Man, no words for what would happen there those last few laps. I was definitely very nervous, and I was driving the car as fast and as hard as I could. I was using every inch of the track I could.
Yeah, you did just that, man. And I mean, it seemed as though that he was just lights out through the S's, but from the hairpin through the stadium section to the end of the lap, it seemed as though you had it in the bank. Was that something that you were having to play mind to as the laps went by? Like, it's coming to the end, we're coming to the S's. I got to find a way to get through this.
Oh yeah, he was, like you said, a little bit better the first the first turn, and then through the S's he was pretty good, and he was even better. I don't know the turn number, but the turn before you get to the long stretch, he was just so much better than me under braking. So I was definitely keeping in mind of that, to see if he was going to make a move during those turns and corners, and I was just trying and get as big of a gap as possible. I was trying to think that the highest it got was like to a second, and I just wanted to stay there at a second because anything closer would have been too risky. And yeah, I was I was pretty much just driving as fast as I could while trying to monitor Robert. It was definitely very hard, but that was probably the most fun I've had in a while.
Yeah, it's definitely one of your hardest fought wins that we've seen you cover. But talk about one of the big elephants of the room here at COTA is the track limit situation. And it was 21 on the night. We saw about 7 or 8 guys have to drop out. We saw a lot of drivers. You could tell they were going to overshoot a corner, and they were just doing everything in their power to keep it on the track. Was that an issue at all for you, or were you able to keep the incidents in check here this evening?
So I finished with 20x, and so did Robert. So we were both on the limit of being DQ'd. But yeah, the off tracks are a little sensitive, and if you're just 1 inch over too far, then you're gonna get that 1x, and over the course of 68 laps, they accumulate, and you just got to make sure you're not doing that too often, and just kind of make sure you're managing those. But yeah, obviously this isn't real life, but real life they have much more lenient. They don't have turtles in the S's. But it is a little aggressive, the incident limit, but or what actually triggers you to get an incident. But yeah, it is what it is. Complain all we want, but
I'll tell you, that's true strategy of a champion there, knowing the exact boundary and then pushing it to the exact boundary. So that's very talented there, pushing you on that thin of a line and getting that 20. But you put it in victory lane here, second win on the season. Who do you want to give a shout out to?
All the guys at Apex Racing. We did a lot of testing this week with Jason, Cam, all the guys over there. So thank them for helping me out and testing a little bit. All the guys over at Lockdown Racing as well. Coney Setup Shop, Stint Analyzer, Susan Media. You guys in the booth for broadcasting. I can tell it's probably going to be a pretty interesting one to watch. Once I get a chance. And then I think the admins, Kevin Steele for the paint, And yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Thank you.
All right. Sounds good, man. We'll catch you at Richmond next week. Congrats.
Yep. See ya.
And Peter has caught up with second place, 15 of Robert Miller.
Yeah, I am down here with Robert Miller, who put on a valiant effort. Really a toe-to-toe battle all the way for the final 10 laps. Robert just coming up a little bit short. It sounds like you are also flirting with disaster as well on the incident point limit. Kind of talk us through your night and what was going through your head there in the closing stages.
It was a fun night. I mean, yeah. After lap 30, I think it was lap 30, right before I got my last pit stop. Or no, it's 40 something. Whatever lap it was, pit stop. I hit 30 X's, or not 30, 20 X's. And I couldn't get a single one for the rest of the race. And I'm like, well, I can't touch John for fear if he even goes off track. If I touch him, say I bump him, and he goes off track because I get a 1X as well, and I get DQ'd. So I couldn't touch him at all. So it was just a real, I had to be really patient, hopefully make some mistakes, which he did a couple times. But then as soon as he did it, I made a mistake myself, and then he passed me again. So it was just one of those races where, like, everything went right because we played a strategy great. We timed it right, me, Lucas, and John, too. I pitted first out of the group of us, and I'm pretty sure I would have got beaten John out of the pits if traffic didn't held me up about 3 seconds for the 2 laps before John came out. So, like, we may not even have this conversation a different way, if everything worked out perfectly for me like I wanted it to. But the race ended up how we wanted it to, and yeah, it was a good race.
It definitely was a good race. And of course, let's talk about the cautions situation, because the way the cautions fell here tonight, we were kind of expecting another caution there with maybe about 5 to 10 laps to go. We didn't see it, but there was an incident limit that brought out the cautions. What were your thoughts on that here tonight? Because I wouldn't say it played a big part in the way the night played out at the end of the show, but it definitely was an interesting element that was added to tonight's race.
Oh, I love it. It keeps strategy fluid. Not quite like F1 where their strategy is pretty much set in stone because of whatever circumstance they're under. But like for us, because cautions come out at random times, you just got to plan to be safe and like just keep on your toes. And how me and Lucas got off cycle that first round of pit stops that had us be basically in the catbird seat for any weird cautions that might put us in a advantageous position compared to the rest of the field. So, and it played out perfectly. We had a feeling it's going to come out 15 laps on average until the end of the run, when everybody end of the race, when everybody calms down, gets tired, wants the race to get over. It just worked out perfect, and we got a 2 and 3 for LMM.
Yeah, definitely a great strategy call on your part. But next week we go from the road course to Richmond. What are your thoughts of the 3/4 mile short track that we have on the schedule next week?
Should be fun. We showed excellent pace in Phoenix, not last week, but the week before. Probably waist-winning speed at that short track. And so just ever since Martinsville last year, the short track package for the team has been really solid. Excellent long-run speed. And we're just slowly dialing in short run, like more and more speed overall with our short track package. So we're feeling pretty good for Richmond.
Well, that is good to hear. But before we let you go, any shout-outs you'd like to give out?
Excuse me, I'm having a cough fit. 1 sec. Okay, good.
It happens to us all.
I've had an upper respiratory infection all this week, so I've been like all week, but it finally kind of cleared up today. Anyway, for people who think, obviously LMM and Andre Grand Boucher, he's the owner of the team with me, and he helps put this whole thing together for the league, and it's great. Thank you for the league, obviously, for being around. It gives us something to do on a Saturday night. And thank you to Altus Esports. We're doing great this year, and it's having fun. And we're having a great time.
Bouncing back from an upper respiratory infection to a second place at GOATA, that is not an easy thing to do within a week, especially here in the 100% Cup Series. But congratulations on your runner-up finish here tonight, Robert, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our runner-up here tonight. I believe Mr. Corey Silvers caught up with the final finisher on the podium, Lucas Oitzma.
All right, Lucas, you finished second last week, and by a matter of inches to your teammate Blake Giglio. Well, tonight you get yourself on the podium in a very up-and-down race here at GOATA. A lot of different strategies, everyone fighting the incident limit, fighting the pit strategies. But you still had solid speed. Maybe not enough for the top two, but enough for a solid podium run. Talk about your night, man.
Well, I had a decent qualifying run there to kind of put ourselves toward the front with track position, and that helped us a ton, gave us some clean air. And, you don't think a road course, the dirty air would matter, but it really was. And we got out front. That's when I ran my fastest lap. That's when I was holding it off, got that stage win. And overall, I mean, really good stretch for me and the team. And podium is all that I could ask for. I ran pretty much as perfect of a night as I could have. So really nothing else I could have done.
Yeah, we were talking to the top two, and they had said that they were literally on the last incident before getting out of the race. So there was a probability that you could have won this race by default there. What was your take on the incidents here today, and how close did you cut it, given the 21 and how difficult this track is to kind of remain within limits?
Well, personally, I think 21 was perfect. I was sitting at, I think, 9 with 20 to go. So I was like, I'll just use some off tracks here toward the end to get me some speed. So I think it was plenty. These guys are just going a little too hard there at the start.
And then last question for you. Of course, the strategy here with the cautions. I know like you said, you went off sequence and it worked in your favor. Were you kind of hoping for a last, another caution? And they were about 15 laps apart, and then we went 25, 26 to the end. Were you glad to see that last run go green, or was there anything different on the strategy that you kind of hoped you would have did different if, kind of in hindsight?
Well, to start out with that last run, I was hoping for yellow because I knew that would get me up to John and Robert and give me a fighting chance. But then about 10 laps to go, I see Dyson back there running me down a second lap. I'm like, shoot, maybe I don't want to caution here. I'll hold him off.
But either way, man, it puts you on the podium, so you're having a solid stretch of runs heading into Richmond. We'll see what you can do there next week on the short track, but who do you want to give a shout-out to for a back-to-back podium runs here in 100%?
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. Just want to give a big shout-out to Labor 12, Randy Lee, if you're watching tonight. Big shout-out as well to Low Drag Esports, CTC Racing, Loudmouth Motorsports, and Robert for getting us this heater of a car this week.
All right, sounds good, man. Congrats on a solid run, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, man. See ya.
All right, well, that is a broadcast here on 3 Wide TV. So 100% Cup Series puts on a thriller here. Congrats to John Delaney, who holds off Robert Miller just by the whiskers there at the very end, and we'll see what happens. Stay tuned for next week's race at COTA. Any final thoughts, Peter?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me here tonight, and I absolutely loved it here tonight. And it's a little bit longer of a race than what I'm used to, but when they put on a great show like they do here tonight, it makes my life a lot easier up here in the booth. So, gonna be a lot of fun next week at Richmond.
All right, and you'll catch Corey and Andre next week at Richmond. Stay tuned to social media because it may or may not be on PTR, so we'll see what happens there. But that's Corey and Peter signing out of the booth. Have a great night, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya!